summer, the last World Series of the 20th century was played. And when it was all over, Roger Clemens would have his ring as the New York Yankees would raise the World Series championship flag for the 25th time.
Ball game over. Yankees win.
And again, the Atlanta Braves would be devastated. But that was then, and this is now, because it's the Braves who are now baseball's best. The Cleveland Indians have dominated the American League Central Division year after year. But this season, the Chicago White Sox have reason to believe. Next, it's interleague play on the one and only Fox Saturday Baseball.
If you have all you want, except that which you want most, that makes you the Atlanta Braves. And still they cannot beat the Yankees at home. Ricky Leday tortures Kevin Millwood last night as El Duque squeezes the Bravos. Volume 4, day 1 of interleague play. Braves 0-8 all-time in Atlanta against New York. Today, the biggest guns. Greg Maddux versus Roger Clemens. 9 Cy Young awards between them, the most for any two starters in any game at any time. You will see history in the making, or you will see a potential huge upset in the making. Not the Astros in their new home. We know about how upsetting that has been. We're talking about the first-place White Sox of Frank Thomas visiting Bags and the Stros. From Fox Park, another place where the Braves can't beat the Yankees, it's the Fox Saturday Baseball pregame show. Along Steve, the Big 4-0 today, Lions. Welcome. I'm Keith Olbermann. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Braves have got the best record in baseball, but the Yankees have got the Braves numbers still.
And they have for a long time, and the Braves' problems that they've always had is that they cannot beat playoff teams. They kill mediocre pitching, but this year the story could be different. Kilvio Veras at the top of the lineup, Javi Lopez back in the lineup, Andres Galarraga back in the lineup. These guys can hit the ball. Right now they're first in the National League as far as on-base percentage. Last year they were near the bottom of the league, and they're going to score more runs this year, and I think they'll be better against playoff-type pitching staffs.
But now is their bullpen a question? John Rocker, twice in 4 days, could not close out a game, had to be bailed out by Mike Remlinger. Monday, a guy at Wrigley baits him into an argument. He dismisses the guy as just a dumb fan. Tuesday, he bangs his own head against the wall in the dugout, a gesture widely applauded by his critics. How come now, when it seems like the media attention is dying down, now it seems to be getting her, John Rocker?
Well, that type of negative attention just wears on you and wears on you. It's like working with me for the whole year. Sooner or later, it's going to catch up with you. But the biggest reason why he's having problems right now is he's not throwing strikes. He's walked 23 guys in his 16 innings. He's always been wild within the strike zone. But when you walk a few guys and then give up a hit, it starts to hurt you, and especially when you're a closer. But Kerry Lightenberg is not the answer in that bullpen. Neither is anyone else that they have down there. John Rocker is the guy they're going to live and die with, and he'll be fine.
But the shelf life of the average Braves closer for the last 10 years has been like 440 days. So
right in there.
Back to the Yankees. First El Duque, now El Duquecito. The Yankees about to sign another Cuban emigre pitcher, Adrian Hernandez, nicknamed El Duquecito because he's said to be like Orlando Hernandez. In other words, he's either 22 years old or 47. The number for today's pitchers is 9. Clemens, Maddux, the unprecedented matchup of a 5-time Cy Young winner versus a 4-time Cy Young winner. It's as if we were getting to see Christy Mathewson versus Cy Young. It may even be better than last Sunday when it was Clemens versus Pedro Martinez.
You always hear the term playoff atmosphere during the regular season. I think a lot of times they overuse it. But that was a situation where it's probably the most intense regular season game I've been involved with.
It was awesome. Having that, Pedro against Roger, and we're going into the 8th inning, and nothing. They're just going all out. It was unbelievable.
I enjoyed watching it. It is special when you have probably the best pitcher to have played the game, for the last 20 years against the best pitcher in the game right now. That's fun to watch.
Last Sunday, it looked like we were seeing not just the old Rocket, but the old Rocket. He was no longer tipping off his pitches. The glove height was the same on every delivery, and he was also going full overhand, perhaps for the first time since '97.
Well, Roger has had to make adjustments now, and he has done that. He's gone back to his old windup to not tip the pitches. When I played with him, he had a great fastball. He overpowered everybody, and we'd all question why he'd use any other pitch. Now he does have to pitch. He's got to throw the split. He's got to throw his breaking balls to be effective. Doesn't have the great fastball anymore, and he's learning, continues to learn.
On the other hand, of that great part of the matchup on Sunday, Pedro Martinez has been scratched from his start this afternoon against the Phillies with soreness in his side. He says he's fine. He always says he's fine. But now, here's the second guess. Should he have pitched the ninth inning at Yankee Stadium on Sunday?
I don't think he should ever pitch the ninth inning. He's not a nine-inning pitcher. He's the best pitcher in the game right now for about 7 innings. The guy weighs about 160 pounds soaking wet. You saw on the video right there, he hit 2 guys in the ninth inning when he wasn't trying. That's a different Pedro Martinez. You got to save him because he is not physically capable of pitching that many pitches.
And Randy Johnson's going to miss his start, too. Not pitching Monday as planned. Says there's a slight flaw in his mechanics. A slight flaw that required a cortisone shot in his shoulder. I don't want to nitpick, but if they treat it with a needle, it's an injury, not a slight flaw. More than a slight flaw in the Diamondbacks game last night against Texas. As interleague play began, Royce Clayton, no, the ball's not juiced.
No, not at all. That's a shortstop going deep into the gap the other way.
Brian Anderson, the victim. Rangers cut the D-backs lead to 3-2. It's tied at 3 in the 7th. Then ding dong. Jay Bell is the DH, decides it with a homer, 4-3. Now, if you are easily perturbed, do not look at this play. Ruben Mateo's season is over. A candidate for Rookie of the Year breaks his leg trying to run out a ground ball. He had to have surgery on the right leg as the Diamondbacks won 5-4 and the Rangers suffer another brutal injury.
My leg doesn't bend like that.
And hopefully nobody else's does. L.A. at Anaheim in the Freeway Series, and nothing is free for the Dodgers this year. Garrett Anderson is deep, and I don't think it's playable against Darren Dreifers. 12-5, Angels over the Dodgers. Interleague play so far.
Well, if you look at the graphic right there in the 4th season of interleague play, you just have to surmise, and this hurts me to say it, the National League's a better league.
And yes, Wally Joyner at 402 has the highest batting average in interleague play. Unfortunately, regularly, he is the backup to the comeback player of the year. After this break, we'll hear from the big cat, Andres Galarraga, in his own words, about his remarkable comeback from cancer at the age of 39. And Steve will psychoanalyze his old team. Well, one of his old teams. Talk about comebacks. The White Sox have turned back the clock to 1994 when we continue. To school with a kid who won the Most Improved Student Award 2 years in a row, which makes you wonder. But what about a ball player who's likely to win the Comeback Award for the 2nd time in his career? Andres Galarraga missed all of the '99 season after the removal of a cancerous growth from his back. Now he's back, hitting .328. We give him a chance to reflect in his native tongue in our feature in their own words.
En Venezuela todos nacemos con esa sangre de querer jugar pelota, de ser uno Grandes Ligas. Cada día, pues cada año se está produciendo más peloteros Grandes Ligas y espero pues que así sigan siendo. Ojalá yo sea pues uno de esos modelos para ayudar a todos esos muchachos jóvenes a que se desarrollen, a que jueguen duro, a que jueguen con el corazón, a que siempre estén pendientes pues de su país. Ellos sienten por el calor lo que nosotros hacemos por todo ese país. Sentí ese calor más que todo cuando regresé a jugar con el equipo de Atlanta contra el equipo de Tampa, donde me dieron pues esa ovación tan grande por más de 5 minutos que me quité la gorra más de 3, 4 veces, los ojos se me aguaron. Esa gran ovación que me dieron pues me hizo sentir lo mucho que me quieren. Para mí es difícil ver el juego desde el banco, sufriendo, porque no podía hacer nada, ni salir emergente, ni pillar, ni nada. Gracias a Dios, pues, y a la Virgen me ayudaba a darme esa fuerza de volver a jugar mi juego. Es algo que siempre me ha gustado, lo hago con todo corazón. Amo mucho el béisbol, lo quiero, y por eso, pues, me ha dado toda esa fuerza, quizá Dios, para seguir jugando mi juego. me siento muy feliz. He sentido pues algo de que estoy respondiéndole a todo ese público, a toda esa gente que creyeron en mí, que rezaron en mí para volver a jugar béisbol, especialmente para mi familia, que me ayudó, me motivó para estar fuerte, para jugar nuevamente este béisbol. Y se lo debo todo a ellos y por eso pues estoy buscando hacerlo lo mejor que pueda. Y si puedo hacer pues este juego de estrellas, se lo voy a dedicar a toda mi familia.
There's the drive. Deep left field. Way back and gone. The Cat has done it again.
And if he does it today, he'll do it coming off the bench. Wally Joyner gets the start against Roger Clemens, basically a lefty-righty thing. The other great comeback story, forgetting Galarraga for a moment, is a team's comeback. The White Sox, it's 1994 again. Now they're a powerhouse in the AL Central.
Exactly, and it's a team that nobody seems to know who they are. Brooke Fordyce is the catcher for that club. You don't know who he is. Spent the offseason calling season ticket holders to ask them if they'd re-up their season tickets. Last year, the Chicago White Sox were a team in total disarray. They couldn't get anybody out. They didn't catch the ball very well. Heck, they didn't even like each other all that much. But if you look at these standings this year, they're at the top of the American League Central. They're playing with a lot more confidence. They got a ton of personality on this club, and they're having a lot of fun. But if you go watch these guys, get yourself a media guy. Because outside of Frank Thomas, who are these guys?
You can put it on the board.
Kevin Green? Who are these guys? Kelly Wand? You don't know him, but you probably should. He leads the American League in appearances, and he actually proposed to his wife wearing the mascot's uniform from his minor league team. Now, that's a good move. Not a good number. Do you know how old you make me feel sitting here, being in the big leagues, knowing that you went to high school with my daughter? It's ridiculous. I said, hey, sweetie, do you need to buy, you want me to buy you some chocolate milk?
No, even then I knew the unwritten rules. I had to stay away. So I was a little bit older than her, so it's not, you're not that much older than me, and you look good for your age. So what are you, 46?
I'll be 40 like today.
Don't let the youngest team in the American League fool you. Like their slogan says, these kids can play. In April, the Pale Hosts scored a Major League record 181 runs, while the team's ERA has dropped better than a half a run from last season. All that adds up to the most wins in the American League.
We got a lot of young, talented ball players. And with their talent, just a matter of time before they explode, and they have exploded and play well as a unit.
You know, defense is much more consistent. We're making a lot more plays to help the pitching out.
Last year, it seemed like in close games in the innings, we were a little nervous, a little rattled. But this year, we're making the plays and making the pitches, and you can definitely see that our attitude's changed.
It is getting frustrating. There's the retaliation. There's Palmer. And here we go. Here come the bullpens.
They got out of hand, obviously, but I think our position players gained a lot of respect for our pitchers that day.
Here we go again. I was wondering, what would you guys think of me if I just fired one of these hats on though? I know it doesn't fit, but how's that look?
I won't go there, but, that really helped. I think it really helped the attitude of the team.
I think it did. It pulled you guys together, didn't it?
Pulled us really together. And that's what's been special about this team. There's not one player, 1 through 25 in this team, that doesn't like each other.
Another major reason for the Sox success is the emergence of James Baldwin. His numbers place him among the league's best. His hair does not.
I know you two guys were part of the Afro gang. What was that about?
We were just giving JB a hard time. He's been sporting ugly for all year.
Can I take the hat off and see what you're looking like?
Definitely. You can definitely take that off. You know, it's a wig right now.
Looking good.
Yeah, it's definitely a wig right now, but it's been one of the things that the guys was able to tease me about.
Can they take it to the end here? Can you win the division and go farther?
It depends on Cleveland. They're still the front runners. They haven't been healthy all year. Hopefully they don't get healthy because we know how well they can play. They've definitely had some bad luck. But this young team here, I think we're gaining momentum. We're definitely gaining confidence. So hopefully we can keep playing at this level. When we play at this level, we definitely can be there at the end.
Speaking of Cleveland Indians, look at the numbers here. The last time that the White Sox were in first place was in 1994. They've basically stunk it up since then. Cleveland's won the division all 5 years since. The Bulls, one of the worst teams in the NBA, outdraw the White Sox by 5,000 per game. Go out and watch this team play. They're a fun team to watch. And quick story on Jim Parquet, one of their starting pitchers. when he was pitching a game in Boston, they would not let him into Fenway Park. He didn't have any ID. He didn't look like a pitcher. They didn't know who he was, and he didn't get in the stadium until someone actually said, hey, this is our starting pitcher. We got to get him in.
They said, you're not Parquet, you're butter. You're butter. All right, that's the pre. After this break, the game, Braves and Yankees, Maddox versus Clemens, or the White Sox and Strohs. We'll keep you updated throughout with highlights and breaking news. Stand by, and then let us take you out to the ball game.
Missile. But neither has the resume of today's starters. Greg Maddux still has the same determination and stuff that owned the 90s. But even he doesn't boast the 5 Cy Youngs in the Clemens Trophy case. On a given day, Roger is still the Rockets. A pitching delight next. Welcome to Turner Field. Welcome to Atlanta. This is the Fox Saturday Baseball Game of the Week. It's interleague time. The Yankees and the Braves. Welcome to our booth. I'm Joe Buck, along with my partner Tim McCarver. We state the obvious and say that this is a rematch of last year's World Series, and no doubt, while all these home runs are flying out of every ballpark across the country, this is a game where we go in talking about pitching.
Is it a pitching matchup for the ages? No. Is it a pitching matchup for this age? Yes. Pitching being in such disarray nowadays, rarely do you have two stalwarts like these two guys confronting each other. They have never faced one another during the regular season or in postseason. Roger Clemens has won more games than any active pitcher with 251. Who's second? Greg Maddux. And they have as many Cy Youngs as there are players on a team.
The New York Yankees have won the last 8 in a row over the Atlanta Braves here in the city of Atlanta. The Yankees trying to continue their dominance behind the Rocket here this afternoon. So we talk about pitching. No doubt at some point we'll be talking about hitting. How about last postseason? The Yankees wrapping up their 25th World Championship. It never gets old. And for the Atlanta Braves, only one World Championship. That came in the 90s. That was in 1995. They still have Maddux. They're still good. They take on the Yankees next. Welcome you back to Turner Field here in Atlanta as this big crowd sold out all weekend as they anticipate the Braves taking the field and another battle with the New York Yankees. We talked about it just a moment ago. The Yankees have won 8 straight here in Atlanta when you date yourself back to the 1996 World Series. Pat Corrales is the manager here today. The 59-year-old has been a manager at the big league level of the Rangers, the Phillies, the Indians between 78 and 87. He's filling in for Bobby Cox, who is away watching his daughter Skyla graduate from Walton High School here in the suburban Atlanta area. So Pat Corrales is the manager. Heck, I could be the pitching coach today. Greg Maddux is pitching. What do you need to do? Just sit there and watch and rock. Here come the Braves. They take the field with their 35-18 record, taking on the 29-21 Yankees. Yet the dominance continues here during the regular season. In 2000, the Braves losing last night. Tonight they turn to Greg Maddux. A look at the starting lineup for the New York Yankees. Chuck Knobloch will lead it off at second base. Derek Jeter batting second at short. Paul O'Neill is hitting third in right field. Bernie Williams cleans up. Tino Martinez has been struggling with the power numbers. Jorge Posada is the catcher. Ricky Ledee, a huge night here last night. 2 out of 3, hit a home run, drove in 4. Brocious is batting 8th, and Roger Clemens has to. It's in the rules. He has to bat ninth. And we look at the defense for the Atlanta Braves. Bobby Bonilla is out in left, Jones in center, Jordan in right. Jones had better cover a lot of area to his right, which he's very good at doing. And Rafael Furcal, the 19-year-old shortstop for the Atlanta Braves, he is electrifying, and they're thrilled to death. They brought him up from the single-A level to play at the big league level. He's ready. No doubt about that. He's shown that. You saw the errors. They are piling up. But he works behind Greg Maddux, and he figures to be busy here this afternoon.
When Greg Maddux was 19 years old, he was a year out of Valley High and lost Vegas. 7-1 on the year, 228 career wins for the 34-year-old Maddux. His 2.16 ERA, second only in the National League to Randy Johnson. A scouting report, icily efficient. Circle that one. Uncanny knack for reading hitters. Leo Mazzoni, the pitching coach, says there is nobody he's ever experienced better at determining whether a hitter is looking for the ball inside or outside better than Maddux. He will throw any pitch, anytime.
This broadcast is also available in Spanish by utilizing the SAP button on your television. And as I read that, I was thinking of the translation for the word isolate.
In Spanish?
Yes.
I don't know.
Mucho frío.
Mucho frío.
Chuck Knobloch leads it off, hitting .281, 3 homers, 10 RBIs. Away we go. Pitch one is ball one, which is rare from Greg Maddux. It'll be Knobloch, Jeter, and O'Neill. I've lost you for a minute or two now as you're trying to think of a translation for the word isolate. There's a strike on the outside corner from Maddux, who's working with a young catcher, Francisco Lunar. Greg Maddux would pick anybody out of a lineup to throw to other than Javi Lopez. The two just do not work well together. That's a base hit. A good start for the Yankees. Knobloch is on and adds to his .281 average. Derek Jeter will walk in. Minutes ago, he sat down for our cameras and had this to say about facing Greg Maddux.
Well, he's always making stuff up. He never throws the ball straight. He's changing speeds. His fastball, he cuts those cutters, two-seamers, sinkers, changeup, curveball, slider. He probably makes pitches up as well. So, you know, he's obviously tough.
But everything goes off the fastball. As a matter of fact, all of the pitchers for the Braves, everything is off the fastball.
Runner goes, hit and run. And Jeter fouls it away. When you get a guy on, and especially with this combination for the Yankees, they will put the runner in motion. Joe Torre, it's been said a million times, we'll say it 1,000,001, likes to manage in that National League style, and the hit and run is something he brought with him to the Yankees in '96.
Particularly when the opposing pitcher throws a lot of ground balls, as Maddux does. I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see him come back with a hit and run. Maddux always around the plate. You mentioned that first pitch. He beat the Cubs 1-0 on Monday, throwing 24 first pitch strikes. He only faced 30 batters in that game.
He has a strike on Jeter. He checks on Knobloch. By the way, that was his first shutout since August of '98. You start looking at the resume of Greg Maddux, and you realize you're looking at the resume of one of the best pitchers ever in this game. You can say a lot of the same things for Clemens. They don't hit and run. The pitch is up, 1 ball, 1 strike. Fernando Lunar is the catcher for the Atlanta Braves. I've had 8 people hand me a note to tell me it's not Francisco. Tim's pointing it out. Steve Horn's pointing it out. Lunar's parents have called. Everybody. All right, it's Fernando. 1 ball, 1 strike, and a pitch out. Fernando took it outside. 2 balls and a strike, and, well, they weren't hitting and running there. Now with a count of 2-1, they may very well do it now.
I would think so. By the way, the words to that song are did you hear the bells in San Francisco? It's Fernando.
That's right. It's a good way to remember it.
Yeah, it was not Francisco's hideaway.
Swing and a miss. No hit and run. 2-2. You're on foul. You're on foul. Remember, Derek Jeter, it is better to look good than to feel good. He didn't look good on that swing. 2-2.
Hitters rarely swing through Maddux fastballs. Usually his strikeout pitches come on taken called third strikes, not on swinging called third strikes. He is not an overpowering pitcher like Roger Clemens is.
Yeah, really, you're looking at 2 masters on the mound here today, but they do it very different styles. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Runner not going, and a ground ball up the middle, base hit. It almost picked off Steve Ripley along the way, and it's 2 on with nobody out. It almost hit Wrigley in the back, the second base umpire, and then Barris nearly got a glove on it. Back-to-back singles, and here come the Yankees.
Ball crushed up the middle, diving for it was Barris. And no way Knobloch is going to try out the arm of Andruw Jones, the center fielder. Even though on most center fielders you would try to go to third base on a ball like that, but Jones throws too well. One of the best in the business out in center field.
Now 2 on with nobody out for Paul O'Neill. A .291 hitter, 6 home runs, 32 RBI. The opposite way, another hit. 3 consecutive singles. Here comes Knobloch to the plate. The throw is cut off, and it's 1-0 New York. Well, so much has been made of the New York Yankees' dominance over the Atlanta Braves that you're starting to get more and more believers as this game unfolds with 3 consecutive singles off Maddox to produce a run.
O'Neill going the other way. So the Yankees have a hit to left field by the right-handed Knobloch, up the middle by Jeter, and Paul O'Neill now going the other way to pick up RBI number 33 on the year as the Yankees take the lead 1-0.
By the way, you can see on that play, it has nothing to do with the first run scoring. Bobby Bonilla does not throw well from the outfield, so keep that in mind. The next time you see a base hit go out into left field, the Yankees will run all day on Bonilla. 2 on, still nobody out. Here's Bernie Williams, and there's a shot to center. Jones came in, can't get back to it. Jeter will score. O'Neill will head around third and hold. It's an RBI double, and it's 2-0 New York. A rare misplay by Andruw Jones. Not to say that he could have caught it, but he took a misstep. He came in and couldn't scramble back and make a catch.
The Yankees had 3 extra base hits over the head of Andruw Jones last night. A game the Yankees won 5-2. Jones plays very shallow, but you're right. Even had he broken back right away, I don't think he catches that ball hit by Bernie Williams. Knobloch scoring easily. You can see that stutter stepped in and was frozen just a split second. But even had he broken back, that ball was crushed.
And now, because Maddox isn't your typical strikeout pitcher, you've got second and third, nobody out. If you're the Yankees, you have to produce more runs. A pitch is inside, as opposed to Clemens in this situation, or Pedro or Randy Johnson. They can get out of this type of situation because they possess that strikeout pitch. Maybe you do have to be a pitching coach here today. 1 ball, no strikes.
I thought the Braves had only 1 rocker.
They have 2 if you include the body mechanics of Leo Mazzoni. That rock is at a little faster pace than it usually is with Maddox on the mound. 1 ball, 1 strike on Tino Martinez. This past week, Tino Martinez broke an 0 for 65 homerless drought. But on the year, he's hit only 5, and he's driven in 25. Runners on at second and third with nobody out. And again, if you're the Yankees, you have to push runs across here. They already lead 2-0, and now it's 1-2 on Tino Martinez. So while Greg Maddox, Tim, never goes into a game thinking about strikeouts, he's got a hitter set up at 1-2, and if there ever is a time, it's now to think about his first strikeout of the day.
And his best strikeout pitch is that ball that tails back over the inside corner to left-handed batters. That's it right there. It's a tailing fastball, and nobody throws it where it's taken by left-handers any more than Greg Maddox does.
The 1-2. There's a strikeout. Changed up on him, and Martinez out in front for the strikeout. Maddox will tell you he never wastes pitches. Maddox will tell you he would rather a guy hit the ball on the first pitch, but here's a spot where he needed a strikeout.
He came in 1-1, but here he goes to the changeup out of the strike zone. And even though Tino Martinez had a double in last night's ball game, he continues to struggle. 4 for his last 31.
Yeah, I don't know if the headline after that at bat is Maddox strikes out Martinez or Martinez continues to struggle. The hat's off. More aerodynamically sound is Mazzoni as he rocks over on the dugout bench. Now it's second and third, one out for a guy who isn't struggling. Jorge Posada, ball one. The infield is back, so if you put the ball in play on the ground, you get a run.
Normally, you do not like to pitch around hitters in the first inning. It creates too many base runners. Consequently, too many chances for multi-run innings. But here's the pitch around situation.
1 ball, 1 strike, and change up for Maddox.
Missed with a fastball upstairs, and now comes back with a changeup, and Posada out in front.
One and one. Second and third, one out with Ricky Leday on deck. On the inside corner, strike 2. So while announcer boy here talked about Maddox and the lack of strikeouts, here he is 1 and 2 on the second consecutive hitter, and there's that pitch you talk about, tailing back on the corner.
Tailor-made for Maddox. Announcer boy?
Whatever you want to call. I answered him most anything, including Jack, which I get at every ballpark. 1 ball, 2 strikes, second and third, 1 out. 2 and 2. Fernando Lunar calls me Jack.
You two are even.
Well, again, to state for the third time, put the ball in play on the ground, it should be another run. O'Neill at third, Williams at second, an RBI double in this inning for Bernie. 2-2. Full count now. And again, he certainly doesn't have to groove one here for Posada with a base open and Leday on deck.
He's come inside 3 times to Posada. Leo Mazzoni's seen him in many situations like that. After coming inside that many times, go away with the changeup. We'll see.
And he misses with it for ball 4. You know, that's part of the setup for Maddox. You can hear with our microphones down on the field, after that 2-1 pitch missed, you could hear him scream something that you're not supposed to say on television. But you know the hitter heard it if the microphones picked it up. So you're thinking, I'm mad, I'm going to pound you back inside. Then he goes with a changeup down and away, and Posada laid off for the first walk of the inning. So the bases loaded, 1 out, and here's Leday. 5th home run of the year, hit last night, a 3-run shot. There's a strike, and here's the home run. Off Kevin Millwood. Came in the 4th inning. And the Yankees went on to win it 5-2. Time called.
Ricky Leday driving in 4 runs. He also had a triple over the head of Andrew Jones in the 8th inning. There's Kevin Millwood, last night's loser.
The 0-1 to Leday. Inside corner again, 0-2. You may get a better feel for how good Maddox is in a situation like this than you would in the shutout he pitched on Monday in Chicago. He's setting hitters up, trying to get off the hook in what could be a disastrous inning for the Braves. 2 runs are scored. Strikes out Leday. 2 gone.
That's that tailing fastball. Watch the movement. It starts off inside and tails late. When you think of the vision of a left-handed hitter, they pick the ball up about 15 feet from home plate. And when they pick it up, the ball's inside. The last minute, tailing back over the corner. Vintage Maddox.
And now what stands between Maddox and the end of this inning? What is right now only a 2-run inning, and that's the way the Yankees have to look at it. Only 2 runs is Brocious. And strike 1. Goes without saying that against the game's best, you got to get to them, get after them early. The Yankees had 2 runs home, second and third, nobody out. Martinez struck out. They put Posada on. That wasn't a mistake. Ledet strikes out. And now 1 ball, 1 strike on Brosius. O'Neill, the runner at third. Williams at second. And Posada at first. Brosius is doing nothing production-wise. He has only 12 RBIs. Allowed 4 hits to the first 4 batters. That's the first time that's happened in his career. About that, but with all that, this crowd senses it could only be a 2-run first. Into right field, Jordan over to get it. Hitting over. He will bend. He rarely breaks. Maddox allows only 2 in the first. Braves coming to bat now. Was he tipping his pitches? I don't know. That was picked up in the press. Talked about in our pregame show. Whatever the case, whatever he changed, he was better his last time out. That 2-0 loss to Pedro and the Red Sox on Sunday night. Struck out 13 in that game, a season high. The starting lineup for the Atlanta Braves. Kilby Alvarez leads off at second base. Andrew Jones batting second and center. Chipper Jones, last year's MVP, hits third at third. Wally Joyner is at first. All the talk about Galarraga, it's Joyner at first base this afternoon with Brian Jordan in right, Bobby Bonilla in left. For Kyle, the shortstop, Fernando Lunar is the catcher, and Greg Maddux pitching. And batting ninth defensively for the New York Yankees. Jeter's good up the middle. Knobloch continues to struggle with that throwing arm. It's kind of been hit or miss lately. It's not as consistent as it was a year ago. And Jorge Posada, is he getting his work in? About 48 of the Yankees' 50 games so far. They play in their 51st of the year, and they turn to their big, strong right-hander Clemens here this afternoon.
Now, we talked about Greg Maddux and his professorial approach to pitching. Roger Clemens, just the opposite. Vociferous on the mound. Very active, talking to himself. As a matter of fact, before Trot Nixon hit that home run in the 9th inning on Sunday night, Nixon thought that Clemens had said something to him after his second at bat. The stuff is the same. His main problem, he's been falling behind in the count. But if he gets ahead, that killer splitter can finish you off in a hurry.
Here's Kilby Alvarez, who's been a fantastic addition to this Atlanta team, and people continually say that this Atlanta team in the year 2000 is better than it was last year. The Braves, this organization certainly hoped so. After another disappointing finish to another very good regular season. How about 95 miles per hour on the Heat to Veras?
Look at Scott Brosius in to play against the bunt at third base. The one thing Veras can do when he goes to drag for a base hit, as he was thinking about doing right there, he tries to punch the ball by the third baseman.
See a lot of guys punch it past the first baseman and pitcher, but it's rare to see a left-hander punch it the other way. As he takes low and away, 2 balls and a strike.
That is by design, and that inhibits the third baseman from playing in too closely. Good on adverbs today. Icily and now closely.
Icily. 2 balls and a strike. And into center field. Falling in a hurry, base hit. In front of Bernie Williams, Kilby Alvarez, who comes in with a .414 on-base percentage, is on to start the bottom of the first, and that is a big change from a year ago. Not only Kilby Alvarez, but now they have a hot Andrew Jones batting in the number 2 spot. They've also had Furcal at times at the top of this lineup. You look at where they were, 28th in the major leagues last year with on-base percentage from the top 2 hitters. This year, they're first. And now you've got Galarraga back. You've got Javi Lopez back in this lineup, although not catching today. You've got Furcal. If he's not in the top 2 spots with speed at the bottom of the lineup, that's why they're better. A check on Ferris, who has stolen 15. Andrew Jones has never hit 300. for an entire Major League season. He's at 317. Rather close. Veras first came up with the Marlins. He stole 56 bases in 1995. Injuries have slowed him, but now he's on pace to get in that neighborhood again. That gets away, and Veras will move down to second base. Throw by Martinez is late, and that'll be an error on Clemens.
This is the fastest team that Bobby Cox has had, even though Pat Corrales the manager today. But with Ferris, Furcal, Andruw Jones, Chipper Jones, a lot of speed, and speed never goes into remission. It's always a quick throw.
Now Andruw Jones fouls one away right side. 0-1. The Braves have had Marquise Grissom at the top of their lineup in years past. They've had Kenny Lofton. They were disappointed with the way Lofton played in an Atlanta uniform, both offensively and defensively. I'll tell you, they are much better off now defensively in center with Andruw Jones out there, one of the best, if not the best, in the game. A ball and a strike from Roger Clemens. So you've got Andruw Jones at the plate, an RBI guy. He's driven in 29. Runner at second, nobody out. You can see him trying to move the runner over, and with that awkward swing, he's now in the hole 1 and 2. Is that a good idea for a guy like Jones to worry so much about getting the runner over to third?
Roger Clemens was glad that he was thinking that way, because now with the count 1 ball and 2 strikes, he can go out of the strike zone to get Jones. Probably a splitter right here.
I remember you jumped on me on Saturdays past when we talked about an RBI guy at the plate trying to move the runner over. I set you up with that, and you bail out on me. What's the deal? Should he try to move the runner over, or should he try to drive the run in?
Well, I think jumping all over you is a little strong for this early in the game. Usually that happens
climb
the middle to the latter part of the game.
Or the season. You wait till the spotlight hits, and then you smoke me.
Telling you.
Ball and 2 strikes on Andruw Jones. Runner at second, nobody out.
Splinter.
And he's gone, 1 away.
Kind of got an idea that Roger Clemens going to the splitter. He started with the fastball grip and then split the fingers. There it is right there. And he throws it out of the strike zone to get Andruw Jones.
We talk about Roger Clemens, Tim, in the early part of his career, and that fantastic year he had in '86. He won the Cy Young at '87, '91 with Boston. The splitter is something that he's really brought out here later in his career. Something that he's added to his arsenal. As Jones breaks his back, gets a base hit to left. Here comes Veras. The lead is long. An RBI by Chipper Jones. Straight it back for a hit and an RBI.
In a minute, Shelby Veras was jammed. A base hit. Chipper Jones is jammed. He breaks his bat and muscles it into left field. No chance for Ricky Leday. The speed on his second. Ricky Leday with the 2-run lead has to go to second base, but now you can look for Chipper Jones to run.
You know, people say he's having a down year, but you compare what he's doing right now to what he was doing last year en route to a 45 home run, 110 RBI season. It's virtually identical. Wally Joyner. Wally Joyner? Wally Joyner.
He's from Atlanta.
It's so many notes ready for Galarraga. But it's Wally Joyner, and he's in the hole 0-2.
You would have had just as many notes about Wally Joyner had it been 15 years ago.
Right.
And Wally World in Southern California.
But then again, I would have been 16, and I wouldn't have been doing the game. Runner at first, 1 out in the 0-2. 1-2. Here, you want stuff on Galarraga as he sits and watches? Why not? We're not taking this back to New York with us. Better get it out of the can now. Better with age. 147 home runs from the age 35 on. Who's number one? Who's number two? Guess. Guess. The top two guys all time. That would be Mr. Aaron and Mr. Root. What Galarraga is doing this season, to quote David Hill, is nothing short of remarkable. The 2-2 pitch. Goodbye, Wally Joyner. See you later. We could bring up the fact that Joyner, when he came up with California in '86, hit 22 home runs, 34 the next year, but he is not your typical power late first baseman.
That's what we were talking about. Roger Clemens still having his stuff, blowing the fastball by Wally Joyner. Andres Galarraga, you can look throughout any sport, in the history of any sport in this country, and not find a more inspiring story than Andres Galarraga. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma last year. He missed the whole season, and coming back with such aplomb this year.
But what really throws it over the top, and I know you agree with this, is the kind of guy that he is.
Yeah.
If he was a bad guy, you wouldn't hear the same thing said, and it wouldn't grab headlines the way it does. But because he's one of the most likable guys you could ever run across, forget about Major League Baseball players, he just always has a smile on his face. Born with that, he has kept that smile on his face. He talks to the injured catcher Eddie Perez over on the dugout bench. He just lifts everybody's spirits who are around him. Who's that? Heck. Power hitting first baseman as Jordan fouls it back, and now he's in the hole, and that was 97 miles per hour from Roger Clemens. He will turn 38 in August. Ball and 2 strikes, 1 on, 2 out. Maddox gave up 2 in the first. Clemens has given up 1 in the bottom. And strikes out the side for good measure. A leadoff hit by Ferris. An error on Clemens, which leads directly to a run driven in by Chipper Jones. Clemens will bat 2-1 New York. On Dad's shoulders, wearing an Atlanta hat, while Dad wears a Yankee hat. Kid's in for trouble later on.
Interleague family.
This is a strike on the outside corner. Clemens saw Roger in the clubhouse before the game. He looked at his bat. He said, "Are you kidding me with this thing? I got to do this, huh?" Not a bad swing. 0-2. I said, "What's it going to be today, Roger? Are you going to bat right-handed or left-handed?" He said, "I might change up in the middle of the game." Goodbye. Jorge Posada catches Roger Clemens, and now he plays Rex Reed as he critiques the hitting of the Yankee pitchers.
Hopefully they're going to get a lot of bunts down, and you know, we have guys on the bases so they can get the bunt downs, because they can't swing at all. They can't hit. They can't hit. I saw them swinging, and they're terrible. David Cone probably is the best one, you know, hitting wise. He doesn't even take batting practice because he say he's got a little George Brett in him, so he's going to be all right.
David Cone, who was originally with the Royals, learned from one of the best.
Posada would have been a tough judge of gladiators 2,000 years ago. What with Russell Crowe and that great movie that came out about 3 weeks ago.
You're going great on that.
Yeah, I like that.
Win the crowd, Tim. Win the crowd. 1 ball, 1 strike. 1 out, nobody on. Chuck Knobloch singled and scored.
Not a good day for a toga, however, here in hot, muggy Atlanta.
No, it's bad when a toga sticks. The 2-1 off the end of the bat into left field. Another Knobloch hit, and he's going to take second easily on Bonilla. There's Knobloch, a 1-out double. He's 2 for 2.
Sometimes good things happen when you do something poorly at the plate. Knobloch flying out of here. Watch that front shoulder fly out. And yet he still uses the end of the bat to clunk one down the left field line. But Nobby knows that clunkers count in this game. Poor swing, good result.
He's thrown a few clunkers over to first base.
Yeah, he has, unfortunately for the Yankees.
One point was so frustrated, came in afterward, talked retirement. Then he recanted the next day. Runner at second, one out. Here's Jeter, strike one. Our graphics department will want me to remind you. We told you last inning that for the first time in Maddox's career, the first 4 hitters had base hits to start the first inning against him. Jeter a single after Knobloch's single. An RBI single by O'Neill, an RBI double by Williams. Knobloch stealing third. Lunar can't get it out of his glove, and there's another run 90 feet away. 4th steal for Knobloch.
Nobody out or 2 outs, you don't try that. But with 1 out, Pat Corrales, the acting manager today, forced to move the infield in. Knobloch stealing third without a throw. Huge jump. Lunar can't get the ball out of his glove.
So now runner at third, 1 out. Infield is in, and Jeter takes ball 2. So we came in talking about this pitching matchup. Already more runs have scored in this game than scored in 9 innings back at Yankee Stadium on Sunday night. A 2-0 Red Sox win. Pedro Martinez going all 9 to beat the Yankees. How about Jeter? Since coming off the disabled list, he's hit in 7 straight, including this game. He's now 14 out of 28. This is into today. So he's up to 500 now with his average since coming off the disabled list. Infield in, and Jeter 2-2. O'Neill, like a caged lion walking around down nowhere near the on-deck circle.
Greg Maddux knows that with 2 strikes, the best way to get Derek Jeter out is to throw something low and out of the strike zone. Derek Jeter still a free swinging hitter.
That single left field, another hit for the Yankees, another run. It's 3-1 New York.
Jeter's 2 for 2. Maddux livid out on the mound. Even the great pitchers have a tendency to second-guess themselves, and I'm sure Greg, if asked about that pitch, would have second thoughts. A hanging breaking ball right in the fat part of the plate. You have seen Greg Maddux make more mistakes in an inning and a third than he has made perhaps in his last 5 starts, giving up only 4 earned runs in his previous 5 starts.
1 on, 1 out. Paul O'Neill takes the ball. So many will point to the Yankees and what they've done against the Braves here in Atlanta, in the World Series in particular. Say, well, they're even doing it against Maddux, and a lot of hype surrounding this start for Maddux, matched up against Clemens. The Yankees have their 2-run lead back, and it's a 1-0 pitch coming with Jeter on the run. Ground ball up the middle, base hit. Jeter will go to third, and it's first and third with 1 out. So the Yankees are not only getting hits, they're running all over the place behind Maddux.
Knobloch running in the first inning. Knobloch running in the second inning. Derek Jeter off on this, and the Yankees almost ran themselves into a double play. That ball would have been a clean single into center field. Watch Furcal. Rarely do you have a shortstop going all the way on the other side of second base to try to field the ball. Ball hit off his glove, allowing Jeter to go to third. 6 hits for the first 3 Yankee hitters so far today.
Now Bernie Williams with first and third, 1 out. Good Pitch down and in, strike one. And again, Maddox is forced to either think double play, and that's tough to do with Williams at the plate, or something he rarely does, and that is think strikeout. Jeter over at third with Paul O'Neill on at first. Oh, 0-1 on Williams. 0-2 on Williams.
Joe, you saw that graphic, 42 pitches and 28 strikes. And Greg Maddux had that penchant. We talked about 24 out of 30 hitters on Monday against the Cubs, going strike one. But today it appears that he's wild in the strike zone.
Yeah, I was just going to say, rare is it when you see a catcher have to dive to catch a pitch. With Maddox on the mound, Lunar was set up outside and had to scramble and catch that pitch inside, even though it was strike two. Now O'Neill's running. No throw down by Lunar, but 2 out. So a strikeout is the 4th of the day. And I'm not sure, but it kind of looked like with O'Neill running, it bothered Williams at the plate.
Yeah, I think you're right. Lunar coming out of there. I'm surprised he got the pitch. Let's go over the sequence. A slider out of the strike zone, another slider out of the strike zone, and Bernie finished off with that tailing fastball on the corner.
So now second and third, 2 out, and Tino Martinez, who's driven in only 25 on the year, a strikeout victim his first time, will either add to his frustration or Maddox's here in the second inning. Ball one. Tino getting a vote of confidence from his manager, Joe Torre, in essence saying, who else am I going to put out there? Don't worry about it. Just go do what you've been doing since coming to the Yankees. The 1-0 pitch. 1-1.
The heir apparent to the first base job for the Yankees, young Nick Johnson. He is on the disabled list. Nick Johnson, the nephew of third base coach Larry Bowa. Larry, the third base coach for Lou Piniella and the Seattle Mariners.
1 ball, 1 strike on Martinez. Pretty good pitch. That's a pitch Maddox wants and usually gets. 2-1. Martinez is at 5 straight seasons of 25 or more home runs and 100 or more RBIs. But the production, 5 home runs, 25 RBIs, not measuring up. Changeup coming on 2-1. 2-2.
Changeup grip. Obviously, a different grip than Roger Clemens on the splitter. All 4 fingers are used by Maddox. Same arm motion. The ball doesn't get there as quickly. Martinez out in front.
Crowd wants another strikeout. Second and third, 2 out. Second corner, goodbye. Martinez strikes out again. His frustration continues. Maddox gets out of a jam, allowing only 1 run. What pitching matchup. It's 3-1 Yankees after an inning and a half. Atlanta, bottom part of the second at 3-1. Yankee lead. Phillips Arena in that downtown Atlanta shot. That's where Bruce Springsteen will be performing tonight.
Bruce Springsteen, better known as the Boss. And Yankee players, when they hear the Boss is in town, they're not quite sure who it is. Bruce Springsteen or George Steinbrenner.
That's ripped into right at the track, at the wall, off the very top, and Bonilla has a leadoff double. What pitching matchup. No truth to the rumor that Steinbrenner's going to sing Thunder Road in Phillips Arena later tonight. As Bonilla missed a home run by 9 3/4 inches.
Or that Bruce Springsteen is opting to buy the Yankees as this ball is hammered. And it misses going out of the ballpark by about 5 feet.
It needed more up.
The upper U right there, right?
Right. So now Rafael Furcal. What did that sound like? Furcal trying to move the runner over or drive him in. Runner at second with nobody out. He moves the runner over, just puts the ball in play. Chances are better he's going to end up at first base safely than maybe anybody else in this game.
Bobby Cox has tried to encourage him to bunt at least once a game.
To the shortstop, Jeter. Doesn't have to hurry there as his momentum carried him in toward the plate. Runner at third, one out. Game break. Back to Keith Olbermann in the Fox Television Center.
Joe, watch this. The adventures of pop-ups in new ballparks. Mitch Molesky of the Astros lost one. Greg Norton is under it. I got it. Hey, walk out! He hit something. The ruling is dead ball, according to the ground rules at Enron. That is a strike. Astros and White Sox scores top three.
That may be the only time the two words dead ball are put together at Enron Field. Nice work, Keith. Yes, it's Fernando Lunar. You make one mistake and they climb and keep climbing all over you. Did you see that?
Tough crowd.
It is a tough
crowd.
Mike Weissman in the truck. Billy Webb. Funny, funny men. Runner at third with one away. 1 ball, no strikes on Lunar. Looking for his first Major League RBI. 1-1.
Pat Corrales, enormous respect for this 23-year-old. He says he's smart and he's tough. It's a good squeeze situation. Even though the Braves trail by 2, it's still early in the game. Pitcher on deck, no signs of a squeeze there.
Maddox, who handles the bat extremely well. As far as pitchers go, it's like catchers who run well. Waits on deck. He's 6 out of 29. 2 balls and a strike on Lunar. Runner at third, 1 out, 3-1 game. 2-2, and he's way, way late on that swing. Maddox might stand a better chance against Clemens. See if Lunar can come up with his 3rd Major League hit. Runner at third, 1 out. Just got a piece. Bonilla, leadoff double. Furcal moved him over. But you can move him over. Now you need either the 8 or the 9 hitter to drive him in. Clemens struck out the side in the first. And nicely played by Posada. And it's a full count.
Posada has worked on his defense diligently in spring training. That grueling drill that catchers go through, blocking balls in the dirt. Came in handy then. He saved a run momentarily. Any ball hit on the ground, Bobby Bonilla will come home with the infield back.
The 3-2 to the shortstop, to the plate, Bonilla. It's a 1-run game as Lunar picks up his first Major League RBI. Sounds of the game. Ned Yost is the third base coach for the Atlanta Braves. Here's what he said moments ago to Bobby Bo.
Nice job, kid. Swing it. You got it. Hey, look what we're going to do, all right? We're going to play the middle back. We're going to throw on the back. If you read a high hopper, we're going to score back in anything in the air back, okay?
They got the high hopper, at least high enough. Base is empty, 2 out. That's all Lunar had to do was put the ball in play. As you look at the double box and in sync, nothing to do with the boy group, but rather baseball. And Maddox, 1 ball, 1 strike.
Reason Ned Yost was talking to Bobby about the middle being back is it's much easier for a runner at third to score on balls hit to the shortstop or the second baseman. The reason being the third baseman and the first baseman are much closer. Had that ball been hit to Brocious, he may have come home with the ball.
That hurt Posada. I'm not going to guess as to where it hit him, but he doesn't feel too good right now. And the count 1-2, and they're going to come out and check him.
The inside of the knee is covered, but there is a nerve in that area. Let's listen to real speed right here.
The Yankees' collective heart must be stopping right now, because we talked about this last week. If there's a guy in this lineup that they can't afford to lose, and if there's a guy in this lineup that they can't replace, it's Posada. What he's done behind the plate, at the plate with a bat in his hands. He's been in 58, or rather 48 of the 50 games so far. They just do not have a backup that's worthy of catching for an extended period of time.
General manager of the Yankees, Brian Cashman, that is one of his priorities, to try to find a backup who can replace Posada. But you're exactly right. There's Chris Turner, a backup catcher. Jim Leyritz can catch, but Joe Torre would prefer that Jim work mostly on his offense. Chris, a 31-year-old that has spent time with 2 other organizations, looking on here to see whether Joe Torre needs it. Boy, it looks as though the Yankees are going to take Posada out of the ball game, and Turner will come into the game.
This is a significant injury if for any extended period of time Posada is unavailable to these Yankees. We hear about all the trades for a left fielder. We start to hear more and more trades for a potential pitcher. But if Posada goes down for any extended period of time, the first trade that will be made by these Yankees will be to get a catcher, because they are ill-equipped to handle this.
Yeah, and then if you wait, the problem with that, as we'll take one more look at it, inside part of the knee, right there. The problem with that, if the Yankees wait to make a trade, then you're trading from desperation. One more look at Posada, and even though that area is protected, that ball has a way of finding the spot in between the hinges, and that's one of the reasons why this particular injury could be worse than another injury. Say if the ball hit him in the shin or the thigh, the inner thigh, that's a hinge. A knee. There's Jim Leyritz. He would be the emergency catcher should something happen to Turner. But because it is the knee, and catchers have to squat to give the targets and to stay low, that could be a more damaging injury than it would be to somebody who played another position.
Well, they miss Joe Girardi for a number of different reasons. But what he can do behind the plate and calling a game and helping to teach Posada. Posada's learned a lot from Girardi. Javi Lopez, the catcher. They lost him last year in July with a knee injury. They weren't the same when he went down. Little chopper to second base, picked up by Knobloch, and there's another error. 9th of the year. The throwing problem persists. It comes and it goes. What do you have, 10 assists against the A's on Monday? Well, he wasn't doing this.
Throw high, pulling Martinez off the bag as the throwing problems of Knobloch rears its ugly head once again. Admittedly psychological, but it shows up and hurts the Yankees physically in a lot of ways.
When he has time to think about the throw, he's dead. When he has to get it, get rid of it, throw it, he's much better off. A strike is into Kilvio Veras as the tying runs on base with 2 out.
And he had a chance to think about it then with the pitcher, Greg Maddux, running.
One ball, 1 strike. Chuck Knobloch in a recent game against the Chicago White Sox unleashed this throw on the 24th of May, which may lead the list. And it was after that game that he said, you know what, if this persists at some point, I'm going to think about walking away. This is a guy, a former Gold Glove Award winner for the Minnesota Twins, and he just has not been the same player since coming to the Yankees. His offense has picked up here lately, but defensively, he's in the category now of a liability. They shudder when the balls hit toward him. And you cross your fingers if you're a Yankee fan and hope that he can get it over to first. He has made Tino Martinez into a pogo stick over at first base, bouncing around trying to corral some of these terrible throws. And nobody, to finish it up on Knobloch, nobody is more upset about it or distraught over it than Chuck Knobloch. I mean, this is a superior player who just has something in his head. He can't get rid of those throwing troubles. Now, wildness from Roger Clemens. We talked about him recanting, saying that he would retire if they persisted. Here's what he said.
I think everybody reaches a certain point in their career where, you know, it's time for them to walk away. And this is something that continues to linger on and on and on. I mean, there's only so much that you can take. And, you know, that might be an option. But it's not in the near future. And I didn't really mean it to come out that way.
And with that throwing error on a ball hit by Maddox, a walk. First of the day by Clemens, handed to Kilby Overis, and all of a sudden the Braves are a hit away from tying it, an extra base hit away from taking their first lead of the day. A 3-2 Yankee lead, second inning. And an 0-2 count on Andrew Jones.
Joe, the interesting thing about Chuck Knobloch's problem is you never see that particular problem with an infielder who plays on the left side, a shortstop or a third baseman, because they have to extend to make the throws. It's the feathery throws that gets Chuck. Also, some catchers have had that problem. Johnny Edwards used to catch for the Cincinnati Reds, the Cardinals, and the Houston Astros had that problem.
Mackey Sasser.
Yeah, Mackey Sasser.
Well, the Mets had to hang it up.
Mike Ivey from Atlanta, signed with San Diego, had to become a first baseman because he couldn't throw the ball back to the pitcher.
2 on, 2 out, a ball and 2 strikes, and Clemens wants to talk to his new catcher, Turner. And that's definitely a factor as we move through this game. Now Clemens, who threw that gem last Sunday night, the 13 strikeout performance, was throwing to Posada. Now he works with Chris Turner. And he wanted to make sure that the two are on the same page, so he called him out. 2 on, 2 out, a ball and 2 strikes on Andrew Jones. He struck out his first time. And he chops this one to third. It's a fair ball, and that ends the inning. Brocious made the play, the force out at third. The Braves get a run. It's 3-2 New York. After 2, Fox Sports home of the 2000 World Series returns after this from your local Fox station.
This is an episode of Guiding Light.
Top of the third inning, it's a 3-2 Yankee lead. Back to the hill is Greg Maddux. The work to Chris Turner, Ricky Leday, and Scott Brocious. Down by a run. Turner gets the at-bat. 3 out of 9, that's it. That shows you how much Jorge Posada has been behind the plate and at the plate batting for the Yankees so far this season. Chris Turner was a non-roster invitee to spring training. He's been at the big league level all the way back in '93, and then parts of every season since. He's been with the Angels, with Kansas City, with Cleveland. And now he's with the world champion Yankees. 1 ball, 1 strike from Maddux. Two and one. Turner rips one foul. 2-2. Shortly, we will be taking you to Enron Field, where the roof is on, and Frank Thomas is scheduled to bat for the White Sox. Those first-place Chicago White Sox. 2.5 games up on the Indians, who lost last night in St. Louis. The 2-2. Full count. Maddux is off here this afternoon. And that's not even looking at the 3 runs on 7 hits. Just his location is measurably off from what you would typically see from this 4-time Cy Young Award winner. That's well hit into left field. Bonilla back. The wall gives it a look, and Chris Turner hits a home run to make it a 4-2 Yankee lead. Fourth Major League home run for Chris Turner, and he just put Greg Maddux on the list.
Baseball is weird sometimes. You know that Chris Turner woke up this morning thinking, well, Maddux is pitching today. No way I'm going to get in the game. Posada will play all 9 innings. Probably be a 1-0, 2-1 game. And here he comes up in the 3rd inning, gets a 3-2 high fastball, and crunches it to left. Bobby Poe watches it go.
To the right side, Joyner meets Maddux, 1 away, and Ledet is 0 for 2. Well, the audition is here and now for Chris Turner, and, you know, we can't underline enough the importance of Posada, but we also can't get caught up in an injury that might not be that serious. Let's listen.
That's a bad sound to a pitcher.
You can track the day of Maddux going from frustration in the early innings to now just kind of giving it a smile like, well, it's one of those days. He doesn't have a lot of those days. Let's go to Enron Field in Houston. Frank Thomas must be coming up.
We'd like to welcome those of you watching the Yankees and the Braves today. Here's Frank Thomas in Houston. And the Big Hurt is back. .333 batting average. Last night bumped out his 11th home run of the year. 1-0 pitch from Chris Holt. This one's sprayed in the foul territory. That'll drop in amongst the crowd. 1-1.
Well, you know, Frank Thomas, I talked to some of the guys downstairs today about Frank and why has he gone to an open stance. And the reason is he saw Galarraga do it, started looking at him, was watching a game a few weeks ago, tried it when they played the Yankees a little while back, was facing Jeff Nelson, and said, you know what, I'm going to do that, and it's worked. There's the open stance. Frank has never done this before. That left foot, and what he goes to stride now, he's going to stride right toward the pitcher instead of across his body, and he's able to do that.
He yanks it foul into the crowd, so from the Big Cat to the Big Hurt.
That's exactly right. Frank was not able the last couple of years to hit the inside pitch, and the umpires started calling it for a strike, so take a look. Now when he strides, he goes right toward the pitcher, and he can turn on him. And he hit his 11th home run last night on an inside pitch. There it is again. The left foot.
Missing just off the plate. It's 2-2. And not only is Frank Thomas back statistically, he is certainly, it seems, Kevin, back personally. The grumpy Frank appears to have been replaced.
Now he's going to stride right toward the pitcher.
And he hits it very, very high into shallow right center field. Hidalgo coming on. He'll take care of it for the second out here in the 4th inning.
Welcome back to Atlanta, thanks to Josh and Kevin. Clemens flies to right, he's 0 for 2. Yanks get a run on a home run by Turner and lead by 2. To the bottom of the 3rd inning, heart of the order for Atlanta, they're down by 2. Yankees match their biggest lead of the day with that home run by Chris Turner. Chipper Jones walks in, an RBI single his first time. He's driven in 38. And his average to 98. 4-2 New York, and a strike. Roger Clemens, Cy Young Award winner in 1986. Is also the most valuable player in the American League. That team with a heartbreaking loss to the Mets in the World Series. He was also Cy Young in 87 and 91. Then he had a layoff. Then the 2 years he was with Toronto, he was the Cy Young Award winner in 97 and as recently as 98. Last year with the Yankees was 14 and 10 with an ERA of 4.6. Clemens finally got his ring last October when he won Game 4 of the World Series over these Braves, a 4-1 victory. Of course, the ring had the wrong number on it, but that's partly Rogers' fault as he changed jersey numbers midway through the season. 12 to 22 to change his luck and honor his son. Kobe, who plays minor league, or rather little league baseball in Houston.
Any number,
he'll play minor league.
Any number on a World Series ring will work.
But it was only fitting that the number 33 was on it, since that was the number worn by David Wells, who obviously was traded to Toronto to get Clemens, along with Graham Lloyd and Homer Bush. Three balls, two strikes on Chipper Jones. Leading it off here in the third inning. And a leadoff walk. Here come the Braves. Lee Mazzilli is Mike Forrest, the first base coach of the New York Yankees. Here's what he said to Chris Turner after the home run.
I guess it is that easy, huh? Iron Squirrel always does find one now and then. But don't stop now, kid. Kill him home. Nice job. Nice job.
Not only first base coach, but most first base coaches turn into cheerleaders at some point during the season. That's what he is there for Chris Turner. Longtime New York Met, Lee Mazzilli, a guy loved in New York, and this is his first season after managing in the minor leagues. Coaching first is a contract dispute. Spelled the end of time with the Yankees for Jose Cardenal.
Jose now with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays.
1 ball, no strikes on Wally Joyner, who hit 5 home runs last year with San Diego, an injury-plagued year.
Now, the one thing you do not want to do with Joyner, who struck out his first time up, is speed up his bat, and you do that by throwing that slider. I think you either stay with the fastball, the Yankee outfield playing straight away, stay with the fastball, or go to the splitter.
Strike 2.
Wally turning it up a notch on that inside fastball.
Clemens didn't have his best fastball, 93. We've seen him hit 97 on the radar gun the first 2 innings. A leadoff walk to Chipper Jones. And time called.
May sound simplistic, but Roger Clemens' fastball is easier to hit when it's down. Greg Maddux, as proven by Chris Turner, his fastball is easier to hit when it's up.
And he and Turner, Clemens and Turner, can't get together. Next week on Fox Saturday Baseball, interleague action continues as the Yankees take on the Mets. We have the pleasure of being there for that. That'll be game 2 of the Subway Series. Coverage begins at 1 Eastern, 12 Central on Fox. Check local listings for the game in your area. And if you're not getting that game, you may want to write your congressman. A ball and 2 strikes. Joyner. Double play ball to short. Booted by Jeter. They don't get anybody. That is rare. Everything seems to be a little bit off here this afternoon. Maddux isn't Maddux. Clemens doesn't look like he did on Sunday. And this, well, you never see.
5th error of the year as Derek Jeter tries to hurry the throw, and Knobloch has to jump for it.
It's worth pointing this out, Tim, and this might be taking it too far. But if you're Jeter and you're about to flip it to Knobloch, who's throwing the ball all over the place, maybe it weighs into you hurrying a little bit.
I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. Because last year, with Knobloch having the problem that he had, Derek Jeter started hurrying his throws to Chuck to give him a better chance to get his feet set and make a good throw to first base, aware of his problem. So he's experienced it before, and that's why I don't think that would apply right now.
It's worth bringing up, though.
Sure,
it's a Saturday game of the week.
Oh, absolutely.
I could just sit here and just say 2 on, nobody out. A walk and an error starts trouble. But that would therefore be acting icily toward you. 1 ball, 1 strike on Jordan with the tying runs on. We're only in the 3rd inning. That's crushed. Left field. The wall. Braves lead. inning, an error by Maddox didn't lead to trouble directly. But an error in this inning by Jeter on what should have been a routine double play with Joyner running. Instead, it was 2 on, nobody out, and Brian Jordan didn't miss.
We said that the pitch by Roger Clemens, the fastball, is better handled when it's down. This is about mid-thigh high. And crushed is the appropriate verb for that swing. Oh.
Jordan's been coming on of late. Bothered by a side muscle pull, which seems to be popping up all over baseball earlier on in the year. The man is in the second year of a 5-year, $40 million contract. And a guy who was bothered by trade talks earlier in the season now has 11 home runs. That's off the end of the bat. Shallow left. Out is Jeter. He's the only one who can get there. 1 away. Well, no doubt the error by Jeter with Joyner running, it's as routine gets on a ball hit to short. But Jeter kicked it. They got nobody, and the Braves in turn got 3 runs.
There was no bad hop there. It wasn't an in-between hop. It was oh so easy for Jeter. The Braves turned that error into 3 runs.
Furcal trying to bunt his way on. Well, everything you read about Rafael Furcal, and we haven't had much of a chance to talk about him. 19 years old, called up, played single-A baseball last year. But the praise is just effusive, just flowing from his teammates, his manager, his coaches, with how hard he works. Another bunt foul. It's 0-2. He can fly. He's got a great arm. And they say he is, without a doubt, mature beyond his years.
From Loma de Cabrera in the Dominican Republic. Mom, an elementary school teacher.
One ball, 2 strikes. Born in the Van Halen decade of the 80s. He's in the major leagues at the age of 19.
First major leaguer born in the 80s to play in the major league.
2 balls, 2 strikes.
His mom's name is Aura, A-U-R-A, and she'll have her first chance to see him play on July 24th. Travel to Atlanta. They get the games on TBS down in the Dominican Republic.
3 balls, 2 strikes. No doubt a big Skip Carey contingent in the Dominican.
That's right. Skip, Joe Simpson, Don Sutton, Pete Van Wieren doing the games on TBS.
Furcal shoots one the other way. He's on with 1 out here in the 3rd inning. This is anything but a pitcher's duel. Bobby Cox ships us this via satellite from his daughter's graduation on Rafael Furcal.
And he's always hit 300 wherever he's been, and it's a hard 300. He hits the ball hard. He's a great runner. He can beat out infield hits as well, and he's probably got the best throwing arm since Sean Dustin came into the league. He's got a great throwing arm, and he's very quick afield, and he's an exciting guy. He's a real fan pleaser.
Skyla, his daughter, will have no problem picking out Dad in the crowd wearing that. 1 on, 1 out for Lunar. Ball 1. Fernando, an RBI ground out his first time up. That made it a 1-run game. Then the Yankees got a run on a leadoff home run by Chris Turner in the top of this 3rd. The Braves have come back with a 3-run homer following an error. Jordan hit the homer. Jeter committed the error.
Roger Clemens has come close to balking 3 times throwing to first base today. He has made an error throwing over there. Yankees with 3 errors, and we're only in the 3rd inning. You have to step to first base
not that in-between, and that's what Clemens is doing right there.
It's like he came up in the Dodger organization. Fly ball into right. Furcal will scamper back to first, 2 out. The Dodgers forever taught that balk move, didn't they?
Don Drysdale used to lean on that front leg. When you lean on that front leg as a right-handed pitcher, you are committed to go home. But Drysdale used to cheat. He would lean on the front leg and then do that spin move toward first base. That is the move that Clemens has used successfully today, but it's very, very close to a balk.
Here's Maddox, who is thrilled to be leading by a run. Probably surprised with the way he's pitched. You see the swing he gets. I mean, this is a guy who, as far as pitchers go, he doesn't have a real powerful swing, but he's got a good level swing and makes contact, which he did his last time up and happened to hit it to Knobloch, who threw it toward the dugout. On the outside corner, strike 2.
With 2 out and Maddox hitting, little chance that Furcal will take off for second base. You don't want to be thrown out and have the pitcher lead off the next inning.
1-2. We've been going at this for an hour and a half. We're in the 3rd inning. Hard to believe with these 2 starters. Maddox and Clemens. Here's the 1-2. 2-2 on Maddox from Roger.
An idea of the overreaction of the fans. This ball just off the plate, moving Maddox back. Oohs and ahs from the throngs here at Turner Field.
Now it's 3-2 on Maddox. And Clemens is starting to miss with regularity. On deck is Veras, who walked his last time up. Here it is on a tee, about 95 miles an hour. See if you can hit it, Greg Maddox. How about 97 miles an hour? Still 3-2. With the runner, Furcal taking off at first. Might be the mad dash of Enos Slaughter scoring from first on a base hit to the outfield.
Harry Walker hit it in the 1946 World Series. Johnny Pesky's delayed throw from shallow left center.
Runner goes. Maddox pops it foul.
Tell you what, Joe, what Furcal does, he puts a lot of pressure on the outfielders in case there is a hit to the outfield. Because if Bernie Williams, for instance, has to go to his right 10 feet, or Paul O'Neill toward the line, or Ricky Leday toward the line, and they realized they would have to hurry their throw to get the speedy Furcal.
3 balls, 2 strikes. Furcal will go, and here it is to Maddox. A 2-out walk, second of the inning. 3rd of the day. And already on the phone to the bullpen is Mel Stottlemyre. The mop-up man, Grimsley, will start to loosen up for the Yankees. Here comes Mel Stottlemyre. Clemens has thrown 76 pitches. He is without a doubt in the category of a horse as far as starting pitchers go. 76 pitches to him is nothing. But his location has been no good, and the error, what has that started here in the 3rd inning? It might start the demise of Roger Clemens. Well, the Monster.com blimp Trump is providing us with live aerial shots of today's game. There's that big pompadour comb over on the front. Tough to see out of the windshield. Monster.com helps you take charge of your career. Put yourself in the driver's seat today by building your online resume and searching over 380,000 job postings. Monster.com for work, life, possibilities. 2 on, 2 out. Kill Veras. Strike one. He singled, scored, and walked. A 5-4 Atlanta lead. A ball and a strike to Veras. Braves trailed 2-0 after a half inning. Then it was 2-1. They trailed 3-1 after an inning and a half. Then it was 3-2. 4-2 heading into the bottom of the third. And with Jason Grimsley warming up, it's now 5-4 Atlanta. As Veras rounds one to second. Hold your breath. From the ear, a little flip over to first, and the inning is over. Well, in the inning, Wally Joyner hit a ball to short. Jeter kicked it. Should have been a double play. What followed was this. Somewhere John Miller and Joe Morgan are smiling at us. It's 5-4 Atlanta. Bob looking on. Our free internet.com trivia question. Greg Maddux has won 10 Gold Glove awards. What 2 players have won the most? This marks 2 consecutive weeks that I, Mr. Know Nothing Trivia, have known the answer. I think we're making these easier for us. For us, particularly. Top of the lineup for the Yankees, 4th inning, 5-4 Atlanta. That means Knobloch is 2 for 2 with a couple of runs scored. Will be followed by Jeter and O'Neill. One and one. We always talk about, let's say, an 0-2 pitch. He wasted that one low and away. Said it earlier, but Greg Maddux does not waste pitches. Every pitch he throws has the intent of getting it out. That's down the line and foul. Strike 2 on Knobloch. We came in talking about a pitching matchup for the ages. It's turning into a pitching matchup from the aged. 37-year-old Clemens facing the 34-year-old Maddux. And they are both off here this afternoon. Clemens has had to work a little harder with 79 pitches through 3 innings. The 1-2 to Knobloch is up and away, 2-2.
Hey, Greg Maddux is interesting today because when he tries to go for the front corner, he's missing off the plate. When he tries to go for the corner, he's missing over the back part of the plate.
From high above on 2-2. Easy for Veras. Knobloch is retired for the first time this afternoon. And for just the second time, the leadoff man is gone. Here's Jeter. Jeter is 2 for 2. First 3 in this lineup, but combined 6 for 6. Throw in a hit by Williams in the first inning, and they're 7 for 8. Coming into this 4th inning. It's like being John Malkovich. Everybody's a Jeter. On the outside corner, strike 1.
Derek Jeter playing for the New York Yankees. He's not the best player in the game, but he's certainly the most marketable player in the game. He leads either league in mock jerseys worn with Jeter on the back.
Wait until, if it does happen, Alex Rodriguez goes to New York. Well, the 1-1 pitch. That's into left field for a hit. Jeter's 3 for 3. It's worth it talking about Rocker with all the stuff that happened in the offseason and the problems that he's had with the city of New York and the inane comments that he made. It's translated to the field now, to where the Braves again are faced with a dilemma of who is our closer. Today, let's say this game stays as is, a 5-4 game, which at this rate is an impossibility. But if it stays 5-4 or a 1-run game, this will be the first time that the Braves will be faced with the decision in a 1-run game of, do we bring Rocker out, who's been walking everybody, or do we start the 9th inning with somebody else like Remlinger or Lightberg, who worked a lot here last night. They haven't been faced with that since having to take Rocker out of consecutive games at Wrigley Field with big ninth-inning leads.
Here it is, June 3rd, and already the Braves have 5 different pitchers with saves. 5.
That's into right field. Another hit for O'Neill. Jeter and O'Neill are each 3 for 3, and it's 2 on, 1 out. And if it wasn't obvious before now, it certainly is at this point that Maddox, who's allowed 4 runs on 10 hits in 3 1/3 innings, does not have good stuff this afternoon.
Paul O'Neill with a good day, 3 for 3. Last night, Paul was 1 for 5. While he was going 1 for 5, his 10-year-old son, Andy, had 4 hits in his Little League game. He told Joe Torre that this morning, and Torre, with that inimitable wit, said, "I played the wrong O'Neill last night." You gotta love that. And Joe Torre, it gives you an idea of his feeling for Paul O'Neill when you can say something like that to the father of a 10-year-old.
Sense of humor is required to manage the Yankees successfully. Joe Torre has a great sense of humor. He's in the point now in his career and in his life where if things aren't going well or if he's getting too much heat from above, he'll pull off the pinstripes and walk. And that's a great position to deal from. 2 on, 1 out, 1 ball, no strikes on Bernie Williams. That's down the left field line, foul. 1 ball, 1 strike.
The last 4 years, the Yankees have had such an adaptable lineup. No player on their team more adaptable than Bernie Williams. He's had several games this year where he's hit number 2. How many players can hit either number 2 or number 4 on a consistent basis? Bernie Williams can.
First day he did it, he hit 2 home runs this season.
Right.
Runners are going on a pitch low and away. The throw down is into left. And this is a tie game. Over to third is O'Neill. He's 90 feet away with a go-ahead run. That'll be a stolen base and an error on the catcher Lunar. And what Lunar is giving Maddox as far as positioning, pitch calling, he's not giving him with his throwing arm.
I think Lunar not throwing that pitch the last time when Chuck Knobloch stole third base. I think he's a little more anxious to show off that arm. And he throws it wide toward the second base side. Chipper Jones can't come up with it. And the Yankees tie the ball game. Each team has scored in every half inning thus far.
Now the infield comes in on a chopper to first. Bernie Williams grounds out. Kind of a silly little nothing play by Joyner, but it's worth pointing out. He was looking at O'Neill at third. If you're that close to the bag, and Joyner has obviously played there a lot more times than I have in my life, but why not just go tag the bag? Why stand there with the ball in your glove when one thing can happen outside of the ordinary, and that is the ball pops out when you tag the runner going by?
Yeah, well, you don't want to turn your back to home plate with a runner on at third base, and you're probably overly sensitive to it. I would imagine.
But by that point, with O'Neill, I mean, the play's over.
That's true.
Runner at third, 2 out.
You certainly have a point.
That's low, ball 1 to Tino Martinez. Well, here's another opportunity for Martinez, who struck out twice. Not producing runs like he has in his Yankee career prior to this season. There's the go-ahead run with 2 out in the 4th. And it's 2-0 from Maddox, who is all over the place. Talk about injuries to catchers. We talked about the injury to Javi Lopez and what that did to the Braves last year. They're going to miss Eddie Perez before this season's over as well.
You're right.
Talking about getting a veteran to back up. Change-up, 2-1. A 2-0 change-up from Maddox. Chris Turner, the backup for the Yankees, is already homered. His backup is Leyritz. His backup is Torre.
Clay Bellinger would be the backup.
Sound like Berman. 2 balls and a strike. 3-1. games gone by, you would say that Maddox is pitching around Martinez. Not with the way Martinez is struggling. Not with the way Maddox is struggling here today. And there's a ground ball base hit up the middle. He wasn't pitching around him. He gave him something to hit. Martinez does. And the Yankees regain the lead at 6-5.
About a third of the way through the Major League Baseball season, this is the screwiest game that's been played this year. I think you can say that with some assurity.
Well, last year we were all, and I say we, and I mean Fox, and I mean the print media, and I mean everybody. You can see what Maddox said there. He said, I should have walked him.
Yeah.
Well, he did. Right. Martinez got the base hit up the middle. But we had the matchup last year of Pedro Martinez. As they look at O'Neill, who's been bothered by a knee here recently. Pedro Martinez and Roger Clemens, at least half of that pitching matchup stepped up and did what we all expected, and that was Pedro Martinez. Now, what are the chances that on a day like today, both Maddox and Clemens would turn in terrible performances? The result, however, is a good game. 6-5 Yankees with a runner at first, 2 out. And Turner at the plate, who homered in his only at-bat last inning. Terrible and Maddox are rarely in the same sentence, unless you're talking about terribly nasty stuff that he has on the mound. That's high. Ball 1 to Turner. Bruce Chen getting loose for the Braves, who had been a forgotten man until injuries set in the Atlanta bullpen. They're without McGlinchey. They just found out this week he doesn't have a tear in his shoulder. That's good news. And they're without McMichael, who's out with biceps tendonitis. So Bruce Chen, who has been collecting dust out in the bullpen, has been busy. He worked last night, and he might work today. Tail back for strike 2. Bruce Chen, who's blown a couple of chances to be the 5th starter. Their 5th starter is John Burkett. He's been resurrected here with the Atlanta Braves. I'm sure in large part to the abilities of Leo Mazzoni, the pitching coach. Still 1-2.
There's Leo with the sunglasses on. It is rare that he witnesses this poor performance by any of his starting pitchers, much less Greg Maddux.
They're without Smoltz for the year, if you don't know that. Blew out his elbow. It's 2-2. This is work for Maddux. It's usually just a little stroll for Greg, but he is heaving it to the plate. 2 balls, 2 strikes with Leday up next. 1 on, 2 out, 2 runs home, and a 6-5 New York lead. Now it's 3-2, and that'll mean that Martinez will get a break from first. And with Leday on deck and the lefty Chen in the bullpen, this could very well be it for Maddux if he doesn't get Chris Turner. Runner goes. Foul ball. So Maddux is quite possibly pitching to stay in the game right here.
If it were a 6-1 ball game, it'd already be gone. The only thing keeping both Maddux and Clemens in the game is it's still a 1-run ball game.
And again, Bobby Cox is not here at his daughter's high school graduation. Hopefully he's not listening to this. Pat Corrales, the manager. That pop-up to the right side. Joyner will watch it go into the seats. Pat Corrales is going to be faced with a decision, although a lot of times when a manager leaves and you've got a pitching coach as accomplished as Leo Mazzoni will take care of the pitching. Right. Pat Corrales will worry about lineup changes. So I would imagine if Maddux comes out, that will be from the mind of Leo Mazzoni and not Pat Corrales. Either way, it may happen if he doesn't get Turner. That's down the right side, might stay playable. Joyner over, really getting pushed out of play, and what little wind we had on the last 2 foul balls, the wind has picked up that ball and thrown it out of play. That looked playable off the bat.
But it keeps drifting and drifting and drifting until finally Joyner runs out of room.
Again, the runner goes, and ball 4. And now the decision. I'm expecting Maddox to lead. We'll see. Second walk by Maddox. 2 on, 2 out for Ledet. And if he doesn't come out here, then it begs the question, why is Chen getting loose?
Well, again, you're in the 4th inning. If he can somehow escape this, and perhaps the top of the 5th, that gives him a chance to win the game if the Braves can come back. And often in games like this, each team flip-flopping leads. I'm sure that's the reason that Greg Maddux is still in there.
And another factor in the decision, Ledet is 0 for 2 against Maddux. One of the few in the Yankee lineup not in on the fun. The bottom of the order is hitless. The top of the order is full of hits. Ledet is struck out and grounded out. And he grounds to second for Veras. So Maddux stays in the game after the walk. He and the Braves are out of the 4th. We're only in the 4th inning. Yankees get 2 and lead it 6-5. Line out of every ballpark across the country. This is a game where we go in talking about pitching.
Is it a pitching matchup for the ages? No. Is it a pitching matchup for this age? Yes. Pitching being in such a disarray nowadays, rarely do you have 2 stalwarts like these 2 guys confronting each other. They have never faced one another during the regular season or in postseason. Roger Clemens has won more games than any active pitcher.
Your idea. I wanted to go in another direction on the open.
What do you want to talk about?
I wanted to talk about hitting. I knew it'd be like this today.
Only on Fox Saturday Baseball did you get that kind of analysis. What a joke.
That's what we're paid for, right? Professional announcers, right. Yeah.
Which only goes to show you why you should never tune in for our open. You get the part where I'm looking at Tim. Tim's talking. It's that awkward moment where I don't know whether to look at the camera or look at Tim. I feel like if I look at Tim, I'm going to mess him up.
Yeah, 2-shot, we call it. That's a 2-shot, similar to this shot right now.
Right.
Also, not knowing whether, we don't know which camera to look for, or right? Huh?
Right. I have to turn to you and nod. That's in the handbook. 2 balls and a strike on Andrew Jones. 4th inning. 2-2. You know, to be serious for a moment. Okay, that's enough. 2 balls, 2. No, to be serious, you know, the Yankees needed Clemens to build on what he did on Sunday night and show that he's not a 37-year-old starter who's going to turn 38 in August, and to show that he is the guy they thought they were getting from Toronto. Well, that hasn't happened here today after a dominant effort at home against the Red Sox on Sunday night. He gets Andrew Jones on the splitter. That's his 4th strikeout. You look at his Sunday night numbers, and, you know, look, you've got Orlando Hernandez, who was scratched from the start prior to last night's game. He was very good last night. You've got David Cone, who is struggling to say the least. Cone is 1-5 with an ERA of 6.24. You've got Pettit, who's been on the disabled list for the 2nd consecutive season. You've got Mendoza, who they'd rather have in the bullpen or rather trade to get a hitter. And you've got Clemens. And this is the team that many people pick to represent the American League in the World Series. But they have a lot of question marks around their starting rotation. A very good bullpen. But this is why, this right here is why the Yankees cannot trade Mendoza. You can't trade that guy. You can go crazy and say, oh, we don't have enough offense. Our offense has been inconsistent. Fine, it has. But you don't trade one of the few guys who's pitched well. Now, he is coming off a down effort and a poor starting performance against Oakland. But you don't trade one of your 5 starters to get somebody to try to pick up for Ledet in left field, while Ledet is just starting to get hot. That's on the outside corner, and Clemens back-to-back strikeouts, getting Andrew Jones and now Chipper Jones. 5 strikeouts on the afternoon.
The consistency that the Yankees are looking for out of Roger Clemens. You know, a lot of people think that the seeds of doubt only happen to young pitchers, to young players. They happen to older players, too. They happen to the guys with a lot of success. They happen to guys who are going into the Hall of Fame.
There's a good pitch, called a ball. Clemens upset about it. Ball 1 to Wally Joyner, who hit the ball to short. Kicked by Jeter. Immediately followed by a 3-run home run by Brian Jordan. How about David Cone? The other day he struggled against Oakland. The first thing he said coming in to the clubhouse facing reporters unprovoked was, "I'm not finished. I'll be back. I know that I've still got stuff left. Tell me there aren't any doubts in his mind."
Yep.
$12 million right-hander who isn't pitching right now well at all, to put it mildly. This guy were the way Cone is pitching right now, if he were a first or second year pitcher, he'd be gone.
He's sent down?
Yeah. But you stick with a guy who has a proven track record and hope that he figures it out. He's 37 years old as well. That's down the line and left in a 1-2-3 inning for the first time all afternoon on either side. We're through 4 innings. At the quarter pole, the Yankees lead by 1. To the 5th inning, Greg Maddux, who's allowed 6 runs on the 11 hits, have had a total of 4 errors. The Yankees came into this game 9th in the American League fielding percentage. The Braves 7th in the National League. You certainly wouldn't expect 4 errors total behind these two pitchers. As Brocious flies one to center, Andrew Jones back to get it. 1 away. You end up with base runners all over the place, and you've got a guy on the mound for the Atlanta Braves who had one fantastic run in the 90s. We'll get to that in a minute. Greg Maddux has won 10 Gold Glove awards. What 2 players have won the most on our free internet.com trivia question? The answer. The answer, Jim Cott, the pitcher, and our good friend Brooks Robinson. By the way, Maddux, as he brings home a 1-0 to Clemens, he tests for Cobb, who's got that great arm. 2 out. Maddux has made 1 assist here this afternoon. He's 2 shy of becoming the all-time leader in that category. He fields his position. A man who talks very well is Keith Olbermann. He's waiting in the Fox Television Center. Keith.
Joe, more of our Welcome to Enron Field tour. Mitch Molesky in the bottom of the 5th. We're looking at the first uphill grade in play since they leveled off Crosley Field in the 60s. Chris Singleton, do not stick your tongue in that pole. Ward scores. Astros lead the White Sox 2-0, bottom 6. Joe.
Thank you, sir. It's 2 out, nobody on here in the top of the 5th as these 2 starters try to restore order. Clemens just had the first 1-2-3 inning of the day, and now it's Knobloch standing in Maddox's way of doing the same in the 5th.
And concerned Yankee fans listening in, Jorge Posada, the x-rays taken of his right knee were negative day-to-day with a bruised right knee.
0-2 now, the count on Maddux. We talked about that run that Maddux had, the 4 consecutive Cy Young Award years. 92, which was his last in Chicago. Then 94, another 93, 94, 95, and that 95 season was unbelievable. 19-2 with an ERA of 1.63. Knobloch's 2 out of 3 today with a single, a double, a couple of runs scored. He's stolen a base, committed an error in the field. That's why we talk about defense. How good was that? Maddux has his first 1-2-3 inning of the day, but it took this to accomplish that. Took a hit away from Knobloch. Bottom of the 5th, 6-5, New York. Well, we talk about defense for Greg Maddux. If there's anybody better in today's game, we don't see him. The way he fields his position, he's so good at delivering the ball to the plate. Obviously an incredible athlete to be able to do what he does after letting the pitch go. And he just made a play on Chuck Knobloch, perennial Gold Glove Award winner. The play on Knobloch in the 5th inning. Most putouts by a pitcher. That ties Jack Morris with 387. Maddux had to put out earlier in the game on Leday in the 3rd inning for the first out after a home run by Turner. So he is tied, and no doubt at the end of, well, maybe at the end of the day, he will have that record. No balls, 1 strike on Jordan. And now 1-1.
Yeah, and most putouts by a starting pitcher, that's not really that big a deal. Because if you notice that on that clip, you saw Maddux fielding his position. If you have to go to first just to accept a throw from a first baseman, that's normally a rather routine play. So that statistic in itself is not as great as it looks. Because fielding your position is the thing that Maddux is known for, as that clip showed.
Every pitcher in spring training can go to the line, run up the line, and take a throw from a first baseman.
Yeah.
But it does point out how long he's been on the mound and how many ground balls he gets. Over to the right side where he has to cover the bag. 3 balls and a strike now as Clemens falls behind. Roger has retired 4 in a row. He had a perfect 4th inning. Jordan got him for a 3-run shot in the 3rd. Here's the 3-1 pitch. Full count.
You know, one of the more impressive things about Maddux and Tommy Glavine of the Atlanta Braves is once they do catch a ground ball, their throws to the bases, to second base in particular. Most pitchers are not good at throwing to bases because their throw has to be true. And when they make throws, normally pitchers don't make true throws. They throw balls that move.
And I would think anybody on that list would look at Maddux as a guy who, because he can do so many different things with pressure on the index finger or the middle finger and make the ball ride or dip and dive, he'd be the guy leading the way in that category.
Yeah.
3 balls, 2 strikes. Jordan Bonilla for Call. Coming up for the Braves, and Jordan hits one into center. Back is Williams. Plenty of room. 1 away. So 5 in a row retired by Clemens. At any point he can get into a groove, and we talked about pitch count earlier. Size of Roger Clemens and the sheer power that he possesses, pitch count is really not that big of a deal. Here's Bonilla. Guys were talking about it on the pregame show. Keith Olbermann and Steve Lyons talking about Pedro Martinez, his size. I think wouldn't lend itself to him being a horse, so to speak. That's a baseball term for a guy big, strong, right-hander or left-hander in your rotation. But Pedro Martinez just defies logic and defies conventional thinking in that, I think in our estimation, he is a 9-inning pitcher.
Yeah, and in that regard, we both respectfully disagree with Steve saying that Pedro shouldn't have come out to pitch in that 9th inning last Sunday night. He did load the bases. Yankees with the bases loaded, 2 outs to end that ball game, won by Martinez and the Red Sox 2-0. The way we were talking about it, and of course I know Steve will have a chance to respectfully or otherwise disagree with our disagreement.
And I think that they take us off the air, so they'll get the final word in.
Yeah, right.
A ball and 2 strikes, 1 out, nobody on Bonilla, who's doubled and scored and popped up. He's been reborn here. But not right now. Goodbye. 6 strikeouts for Clemens, 6 in a row. Retired by the Rockets. Who has the A&W Fan Cam found for us today with the music stylings of Tito Puente, who passed away this week. New Yorker, Puerto Rican descent. That music to the A&W Fan Cam.
The timbales are sadly silent here 2 days after the death of Tito Puente. What a great sound.
So with Rafael Furcal at the plate, Tito Puente will let you enjoy the action.
You'll probably have your merengue shoes on tonight seeing that concert, right?
Yeah, it's
the boss.
Springsteen. El Jefe. Three balls and a strike on Furcal, and it's fitting to play the music of Tito Puente. Latin American baseball players make up such a vast number of the major leaguers in today's game. 25% of Major League Baseball players are of Latin American descent. And Furcal, that's trouble when you walk this guy. Fourth walk handed out by Clemens. And Furcal, who can fly, is on at first. On Tito Puente, Bernie Williams, who is known for his guitar playing, says he was a legend on Latin American music, the pioneer in Latin American jazz, an inspiration to musicians and non-musicians as well. He was a guy who took the drum set, the timbales, as Team McCarver talked about, and brought them out in front of the band as opposed to typical setups. You get the drum set in the back of the band. And Tito Puente will no doubt be missed, passing away this week. And now we're going to have a pinch hitter. Fernando Lunar will be lifted for a pinch hitter. This is a smart move. Pat Corrales is doing something here. Lunar, not much of a hitter. He's in the game because Greg Maddux would rather throw to him. Greg Maddux is not long for this game if he even pitches to one more batter. They've got action in their bullpen, so why not go to Javi Lopez right here? You don't need Lunar to catch Maddux anymore as he's going to be lifted from the game, so might as well go to an offensive threat. Rentlinger gets loose.
Here's what I would do in this situation if I were the interim manager of the Atlanta Braves. I would allow Lunar to hit, send Furcal. If he's thrown out, Lunar is still in the ball game. He still serves a purpose as a defensive player. If he steals the base, send up someone else to pinch hit for Lunar and insert Javier Lopez. A two-out pinch hitter right now with Furcal on at first base, you're less inclined to send him because if you do send him, then Lopez is going to lead off the sixth inning. There are a lot of ways to go about this, obviously.
He's hit 7 home runs this season. In case you're wondering, Clemens has allowed 11, including Jordan's shot back in the 3rd inning. Ball 1. Certainly gives Roger Clemens and the Yankees more to think about now, though, with Furcal at first. You expect him to take off, or if not, they're laying back and hoping that Javi Lopez can get into a pitch from Clemens. Furcal has stolen 10 bases. He went 1 ball, 1 strike. Pinch hitter in the on-deck circle. And Furcal draws a look from Clemens. It's worth repeating. You could send Lunar to the plate. If Furcal steals the base, then you pinch hit Lopez for Lunar. That's another option, but instead they send Lopez to the plate. Furcal starts and stops, and now the count's 2-1, and I expect Furcal to go on this next pitch. One of the next couple.
Yeah, the one thing Roger Clemens can't do right now is keep one eye on Furcal and then one eye on Javi Lopez. Lopez is too dangerous a hitter to do that. You have Lunar up there, different situation.
See if he goes. There he goes. And he steals it uncontested. So now the Braves are a hit away from tying this game. That's number 11 for Furcal. And he's in scoring position. It's a 2-ball, 2-strike count on Lopez, and they didn't even bother with Furcal. But they might pay the price if Lopez gets a hit. Gets a huge lead at second. And then slammed into center field. Back is Williams at the track. Can't make the catch. This game is tied. Pinch hit double by Lopez. 6-6. And something else just happened. With the pinch hit double by Lopez, they're going to keep Maddox in the game.
Hammered to center field. Bernie Williams had a good jump on the ball. He's got to catch that ball. He short-armed the ball. You can understand a bad break because the white shirt's in the stands, but that is inexplicable. Bernie Williams missing that ball. That ball has got to be caught.
It is a double, however, and now Maddox, they had Lockhart in the on-deck circle. Lockhart is called back, and Maddox stays in the game. And by the way, it's worth saying that Maddox, since the 91 All-Star break, is 98-2 when he gets 5 or more runs of support. That's with the Cubs and Braves. Both losses were to the Rockies, which is understandable, especially if they were out there. 98-2 since the 91 All-Star break, when his team gives him the kind of support he's getting today. 5 or more runs. The Braves have scored 6. Runner at second, 2 out, and now 2 balls and a strike on Maddox. And Clemens struggling to get the final out here in the 5th. A 2-out walk, a stolen base by Furcal, and a pinch hit RBI double from Javi Lopez. 2-2 on Maddox.
With 2 strikes on Greg Maddox, Paul O'Neill, the right fielder, has just moved in a couple of steps. If Maddox does put the ball in play to the right side, it is not going to be deep. That's why O'Neill is playing shallow.
The 2-2. There's a good rip. And I'll ask you, is Leday too deep and left?
Perhaps, yeah. Greg Maddox is not a power hitter. You can move Leday in about 4 feet. Young outfielders have a tendency to play deeper than older outfielders because if a ball's hit over their head, as just happened to Bernie Williams, they're embarrassed.
And then you go back the other way when they get toward the end of their career, they end up backing up.
That's true.
Because they don't come in on balls as well. And they want to keep as many things in front of them. Those older outfielders have a tough time going back on drives hit well. That's on the outside corner, and Maddox is gone. Well, this game has featured 3 Yankee errors today. The wild pickoff throw by Clemens, another not-block throwing error. The killer error by Jeter. A 3-run homer followed. This mistake, no error, but boy, did it cost New York. Things in the bottom of the 5th inning. He delivered a game-tying RBI pinch hit double, and because he tied the game at 6, that kept Maddox in the game. And now maybe if you're Javi Lopez, you can earn some points with Maddox, how you work the rest of this game. Because Greg Maddox, to this point in his Atlanta career, has preferred to throw to other catchers, whether it's been Charlie O'Brien, it's been Eddie Perez, or they called up a kid, Fernando Lunar, who started this game and was lifted for the pinch hitter. So now it's Lopez, and this is a rarity to see Javi catching Maddox. Jeter, strike 1. Maybe they can figure out a way to get Jeter, who's 3 for 3 today.
Lopez has already earned points with Greg by tying the ball game with that double.
Got him
trying to do it defensively.
Got him off the hook. He's 7-1 and came into this game, Maddox did, with a second-best ERA in the league at 2.16. Randy Johnson leads the way with a 1.41. 1 ball, 1 strike. There certainly is an art in catching Greg Maddox. Now, a lot of it has to do with things that happened prior to catching the pitch. What fingers you put down, in other words, what pitch you call for. Maddox likes to get into a groove, and then maybe even more importantly, where you set up. I mean, Eddie Perez is always the middle of his body is split by the edge of the plate. He sets up outside, sets up inside. He frames pitches well. The 2-1. 3 balls and a strike. But if it doesn't work from here on out today for Maddox, Lopez would be last on the list of blame. Maddox just hasn't had it in the first pitch of the day. Three and 2 on Jeter with his average up to 318. Cienez throws that pitch down to the bullpen, and Remlinger he's loose and ready to go. On a warm day in Atlanta, he was throwing last inning.
Seems like 1,001.
The 3-2 to Jeter, first up in the 6th inning for the Yankees in a 6-6 game. Into left field, hard hit, and played on a hop by Bonilla. Jeter 4 for 4. Now with O'Neill coming up, do we see Remlinger?
And if you're going to base that on only one at bat in the 6th inning, why was Maddox the hitter in the bottom of the 5th inning? I'll tell you, Pat Corrales says their interim manager has had a lot of moves to think about making in this ball game, with Bobby Cox attending the graduation of his daughter.
So they're going to now leave Maddox in to face O'Neill, who's 3 for 3 against him today, and leave Remlinger sitting down in the bullpen. Strike one. These are some interesting decisions being made by Pat Corrales and or Leo Mazzoni over in the dugout. You would tend to err on the side of Maddox.
Yeah,
but this isn't typical Maddox here today.
Tend to err on the side of Maddox and Clemens, and to reiterate, that's the biggest reason that they're in the game is what they've done throughout their careers.
Right now, a 19-2 year in '95 is what a distant memory to Greg Maddox, and Paul O'Neill could care less. He's looking for something to rip, and he is. 3 for 3 with 3 singles, and his average up to 302 now. Ball and a strike on O'Neill. Jeter's over at first. Ties his career high. It's the 11th time he's had 4 hits in a game. And we're only in the 6th inning.
Paul O'Neill has singled to left, singled to center, singled to right.
Well, this will be a first and second guesser's delight if Maddox doesn't get O'Neill. Switch hitting Bernie Williams on deck. Remlinger has been fantastic out of the bullpen for the Braves. They stay with Maddox. 1 ball, 1 strike. And a clunker to second. That'll get the runner Jeter down to second. There he is with 1 away. O'Neill's retired for the first time today, and now Williams and Martinez will try to drive him home. So even when O'Neill makes an out, he advances the runner. Now the cleanup man, Bernie Williams.
Joe, we talked about it last year quite a bit. A double play for a pitcher is an odd thing in baseball because you want the hitter to hit a ground ball hard enough so a middle infielder preferably can field the ball to turn the double play. If you do what you normally do and get him to hit it softly, you don't get the double play. That's why they didn't get the double play on O'Neill.
And as a result, Jeter's at second in a odd foul ball off the end of the bat. Bernie Williams, strike 1. Paul O'Neill may be 3 for 4, but right now he's furious. That's just the way he is. It's not a put on, it's not an act.
Oh no,
like it is with some guys. He lights up in a hurry. Runner at second, to go ahead run, 1 out. Jeter really getting a big lead back at second base. And that's easy into left field for Bonilla. Shading his eyes. 2 out.
looking back on that ball hit by Javier Lopez, we said that Bernie Williams, who is a Gold Glove center fielder, had a chance to catch that ball. The only thing that I can think is that possibly he thought the wall was closer than it was. But that's what that warning track is there for. Once you take 4.5 steps at full stride, and the wall comes into play, but only a couple of steps. Why Bernie short-arm that ball, I don't know.
It could be a result, a real end result, kind of a distant relative to a result of interleague play. I mean, the Yankees haven't played much here at this ballpark. Now, granted,
that's a point.
They've played a couple of games here in the regular season. They were here for the World Series for a couple of games, the first 2 games last October. But not feeling all that familiar with the warning track and the wall situation here at Turner Field, as they will intentionally pass Tino Martinez to face Turner. I would say that if that same ball were hit at Yankee Stadium, Williams catches it because he's very familiar with how much room he's got out there, what the warning track means. Once he hits the warning track, how far he's got to go to the wall. Being in a stadium where you play in twice a year, sometimes 4 times a year, could weigh in. Turner will be at the plate because of this second inning injury on a foul ball hit by Maddox that caught and bruised the right knee of Posada. Then leading off in the 3rd, he hit a home run into left, his 4th major league home run. But there's no doubt that without Posada's threat in the lineup, they were more willing to pitch around Martinez, intentionally pass him here, take their chances with Turner. Strike 1.
Also, you may remember Tino Martinez 3rd at bat. He drove in the 6th Yankee run of the game with first base open, a runner on at second base, and the reaction of Greg Maddux that Joe picked up, should have walked him. How can I not walk him? Well, he did this time.
The 0-1 pitch. Through the right side of base hit. That'll bring Jeter to the plate. Throw by Jordan is too late. The Yankees are back on top. Chris Turner with 2 runs batted in today. A guy named Turner in Atlanta is beating the Braves.
They've already named a field after him.
There's that man again, and here comes this man again, and goodbye to Greg Maddux.
First a home run, and now a go-ahead single by Chris Turner. In the hole between first and second as the Yankees retake the lead. I think that word, that hyphenated word, may be used more than any other throughout this game. Retake.
The play at the plate, not close. Jeter scores. He led off with a hit. Greg Maddux is on the hook. He's gone here in the 6th inning. Yankees up by 1. Guy over at first base had this to say after Turner delivered the 2-out RBI hit.
Give me a little smile too now. There you go. Give me a little smile. Give me a little smile. There you go. Nice hit. Way to play on the pitch. There you go. Okay.
Nothing to it for Chris Turner. There's the smile. Back in the 3rd inning leading off. He hit a home run off Maddux, and he KOs Maddux here in this 6th inning with this. The opposite way. That's the end of the day for the 4-time Cy Young Award winner. 4 of the 9 Cy Young Awards are gone. One guy who's won 5 remains, and Remlinger is the new pitcher for the Braves. What a year he's had. 0-1, but a great ERA. 28 games for Remlinger. Breaking ball to Ledet. Strike 1. Over 3 against Maddux. 2 on, 2 out, no balls, 1 strike. Ball, 1 strike as Tim Sheeta gives the safe sign to Ricky Ledet. Maddux 5 2/3 innings. Good look at that check swing. He held up the track. 7 runs scored against Maddux, all earned, and he leaves with 2 on. And it's 1 and 2 on Ledet. I'm starting to believe, like you've believed all along, that if somebody ends up with Ledet, they're going to end up with a good player.
I think so. You look at him play on a day-to-day basis. Remarkable talent. 2 3-run homers in his last 2 ball games. 4 RBIs last night.
He's set up here facing a tough left-hander. Now it's 2-2.
Talk about those seeds of doubt creeping in with Roger Clemens when he was on the mound the last half inning. You can imagine what it's like with a younger player who's yet to prove himself over the course of a season, back-to-back seasons together. But he is certainly capable of doing that, and Joe Torre knows it.
2 on, 2 out. Full count now on Ledet. Anybody who does end up with him, if indeed he is traded, will also end up with a guy who can play center field.
Better center fielder than he is a left fielder, and that is unusual.
Runners will go. 3-2 pitch is popped in the air to right. Got it toward the end of the bat. Jordan waits for it. The Yankees get 1. Remlinger comes out of the bullpen to stop the rally. 1 run, 2 hits, an intentional walk, 2 left. Top of the order coming up for Atlanta. They're down by 1. Well, a couple of changes as we move to the bottom of the 6th inning with the top of the order coming up for Atlanta. Shane Spencer comes into the game to play right field. You can only guess, and this is all it is, a guess. The knee is bothering O'Neill. There is no double switch from what we understand in that Grimsley, the new pitcher, will bat in the number 9 spot, meaning he's due up second in the 7th. At least that's the word we're getting now from the official scorer. So Grimsley and Spencer straight changes, and Grimsley is into the game for Clemens, who went 5 innings, allowed 6 runs on 6 hits, but could be the winner if his bullpen and teammates hang on. Kilvio Veras first up, ball 1.
Maybe Joe Torre is thinking that Jason Grimsley will go only 1 inning for him, and he could possibly pinch hit for Jason in the top of the 7th inning and go to either Jeff Nelson or Mike Stanton.
The opposite way, pretty well hit, but Ledet is back to get it. 1 away, and Veras is retired for the 2nd time today. Tomorrow is the return of NFL Europe to Fox. Check out the stars of the future as the Rhein-Fire battle the Frankfurt Galaxy. Coverage begins at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on Fox. As you know, the Rhein-Fire 5-2, the Frankfurt Galaxy bring up the bottom of the league at 2-5. Quite literally, the future stars of the NFL. Kurt Warner played over NFL Europe and so many others. Brad Johnson, quarterback of Washington, trying to make that the minor leagues of the NFL, or an alternate league as a feeder to the NFL. I don't want to upset people in NFL Europe. I may end up there doing the Rhein-Fire someday. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Andrew Jones, second on the Braves with 14 home runs and none to right field.
The 1-1 pitch to Andrew. Off the end of the bat, shallow center. Bernie Williams coming to get it. 2 away.
It's the one thing that will eventually suffer with Andrew Jones is by not going to right field. A lot of times you don't position yourself as a right-handed hitter to handle the pitch away. Hitting the ball to center field is about one of the few times that Andrew Jones won't pull the ball, but he tries to pull too much in my view.
Chipper Jones last year became more of a threat from the right side of the plate under the tutelage of Don Baylor, who was the hitting coach here with the Braves and now, of course, is the manager with the Cubs. New hitting coach is Merv Retman, who has been with the Padres for 9 seasons. Those around Merv will tell you that he's one of the top hitting instructors in the business. And he has helped Andrew Jones considerably. He has certainly turned around Bobby Bonilla's fortunes, who was so bad with the Mets. Here's another chance for Knobloch. Lally pops it over to first, and the inning is over. We go to the 7th. A 1-run Yankee lead. Fox Sports, home of the 2000 World Series, returns after this from your local Fox station. Inning now, a 7-6 Yankee lead. Joe Buck and Tim McCarver with you, ready to, that's McCarver, right? Ready to give a reprise over what we said in the open. Little takeover, do-over. You said, didn't you say that last inning?
Yes, I did. A do-over. I respond, however, to Ken, Jim, MacArthur, McCarthy, anything like that.
Really? You don't know how many times I've looked at you on these games, started to call you either Mike, Jack, Al for Al Hrabosky, guys who I work with in St. Louis. Here's the 1-1 pitch. Brocious. 2 balls and a strike.
Well, as long as you never thought of calling me Dad.
No. I do call Dad on the air back in St. Louis.
Absolutely.
I no longer run from nepotism. It's been a nice metamorphosis. 2 balls and a strike on Brocious first up. Remlinger will work to Grimsley, the pitcher, next. 2-2.
That last pitch is what makes Remlinger more effective against right-handed batters than against left-handers. He will not throw the splitter against left-handers, but watch this ball go down.
The 2-2. Brocious hitting .226, and he's gone to start the 7th. So this bullpen is better than it was a year ago in the World Series for the Braves. The bench is better. Wally Joyner is there now. Bonilla has been a nice improvement. Jason Grimsley now steps to the plate. He's had 38 at-bats in the big leagues, 4 out of 38. 2 RBIs in his career. Into the National League with the Phillies.
His last at-bat's got to be 1991. So Jason is 0 for 10 years, only because he hasn't hit since 91.
1 ball, 1 strike. Start to look at the schedules for these 2 teams. Not only is this a big series here in Atlanta for the Braves and the Yankees. The Yankees have 1 more here tomorrow, and then Joe Torre's crew will have 3 at Montreal, a very dangerous Montreal team. 3-1 on Grimsley. Then 3 against the Mets will be a part of Saturday's game a week from today. 3 against Boston and 4 against the White Sox. You can extend those to 7 games apiece. For the Red Sox and White Sox looking even farther down the schedule. So this is a stretch for a team that hasn't played like a world champion club over the next 3 weeks. A 1-out walk to Grimsley. And that is
dangerous Grimsley.
If you're Remlinger, that is inexcusable. The hat's off. He's no longer rocking. Catch This Week in Baseball, the baseball show that takes you inside the game. Saturdays at 12:30 Eastern and Pacific, right before Fox Saturday Baseball. Next Saturday, Cleveland slugger Jim Thome will host This Week in Baseball. It's as close to the game as you can get. Brian Jordan hosted today. Derek Jeter hosted the return of This Week in Baseball last Saturday. And here's Chuck Knobloch. Strike 1. Knobloch has made 1 throwing error in this game, but has bounced back with 2 accurate throws since then, hitting .287. Had 3 very good at-bats against Maddox. Greg went up and took a hit away from Knobloch his last time up, a ball up the middle. 1 ball, 1 strike from Remlinger.
The Yankees go to Montreal after the game tomorrow afternoon against the Atlanta Braves. They play 3 night games in Montreal. And they will follow a team, the Baltimore Orioles, who have, as we speak, lost 18 straight games in Canada. 14 against the Blue Jays and 4 against the Expos.
Strange through into shallow center. Andrew Jones 2 away right now for a game break. Let's go to Keith Olbermann in the Fox Television Center.
Joe, that much-hyped Kip Wells-Chris Holt pitching matchup is now history. Richard Hidalgo chases Kip Wells, hits a homer to the choo-choo. Man on board, his 17th. 4-1 Astros now in the bottom of the 8th. Choo-choo, Joe.
It's better than what we've had here so far today.
The Chattanooga choo-choo's only about 110 miles north of here. Pardon me, Joe.
Yeah. 1 on, 2 out. And a foul backing out of play to the right. You going Gene Wilder on me there? A little young Frankenstein moment?
Oh, yeah.
I know you were.
Care for a dime?
On the count. Yeah, now I'm speechless, and then I start to talk, and you talk.
Leo Mazzoni probably thinking that for young pitchers, he doesn't want them to pitch this way.
What hump? This has been an abnormal kind of afternoon.
Indeed, it has. As brains go.
Remember how we were looking back through my scorebook at all the games that we've worked together since '96?
Sentimental moment before the game.
We've worked too many together. That's the point to be made there. That's this season. He has his 11th 4-hit game this afternoon in his career, and could have his first 5-hit game with a hit here, or maybe in the 9th if this lineup turns over again. On deck is Spencer. O'Neill left with soreness in his right lower leg. And you know it's serious if O'Neill came out of the lineup. Not something he enjoys doing at all. 3-1. A changeup on 3-1. Full count. At first, Grimsley has been told by Lee Mazzilli that he's supposed to run. Towards second. Nothing bad can happen. Just run. And a walk, second of the inning, presents trouble for Remlinger. So you can trace this inning and the trouble now back to a 1-out walk to Jason Grimsley.
Jason Grimsley now on second base, and really one of the disparities of interleague play, Joe. When you have the designated hitter, here you have a man on second base, a very valuable pitcher for the New York Yankees. If Spencer hits the ball hard to the outfield, you're in a 1-run ball game. You want to send Grimsley, but do you do it and risk a chance of an injury?
Strike on the outside corner. Now Grimsley can run second to home.
Yeah, I'm not saying he can't run second to home, but what if he slides? He hadn't slid in 10 years. Come on.
There's another interleague play disparity. I'm making excuses for Williams earlier in the day, and now you're throwing out a disclaimer before Grimsley tries to score from second. Maybe a moot point as the count goes to 0-2 on Shane Spencer. Yankees lead by a run here in the 7th inning, but you knew that. It says so right in the top left-hand corner of your screen. Oh, and 2 the count on Spencer. First at bat of the day, hitting .248, 8 home runs, 23 RBIs. Wouldn't chase it. 1-2. Shane Spencer, who this past week hit into an unassisted triple play. Former Yankee Randy Velarde turned the trick. Second baseman. Here it is. Against Omar Olivares. the unassisted triple play.
Only the 11th unassisted triple play in the history of Major League Baseball, and the first time ever in New York City.
Out in front, and that's the easiest to put out for Chipper Jones. The force out at third, 2 walks, 2 left. Yankees have left 11. The Braves have left 6. Time to stretch. These fans are deserving of a stretch. It's 7-6 New York. For work, life, possibilities. We welcome you back on a hazy day in Atlanta. It's warm, as you might expect. And Jason Grimsley, who's been so good out of the bullpen for Joe Torre, worked a scoreless 6th inning against the top of the Atlanta lineup. And now here in the 7th, the Yankees up by 1 will work to Joyner, Jordan, and Bonilla. Braves went out and got Wally Joyner, thinking there was no way that Andres Galarraga would be able to do what he is doing. That is, play day to day and produce the way he has produced. He's had a little flair for the dramatic. He's hit 15 home runs, driven in 48, which is tied for 5th in the National League. A lot of late inning home runs as Joyner bounces 1 foul, 1 ball, 1 strike.
Wally coming over from the Padres along with Kilvio Veras, young player by the name of Jason Shield for Brett Boone. Ryan Klesko. Actually, Shield going to the Padres.
Joyner hits one into right, and Spencer out there puts it away, 1 down. Hardest hit ball off the bat of Joyner today.
See where Ryan Klesko just signed a pretty big extension with the San Diego Padres. 3 years, wasn't it?
3-year extension, and Brett Boone is from the San Diego area. So Klesko loves it out there. Boone loves it out there. And the Braves are happy with the package they got, mainly because of Kilvio Veras and what he's done at the top of this lineup. Into the game with an on-base percentage of .414. He's been on base today 2 out of 4 times. Reggie Sanders hasn't done much. That's off the end of the bat. They got Sanders from San Diego. Reggie had a big year last year, but he's hitting only .155 with no home runs, 3 RBIs, and he spent time on the disabled list. Jordan is homered today. That gives BJ 11 on the year. Into center field. That should be handled by Williams. Interleague play or not. 2 out. And the bases will be empty for Bonilla. Bobby Bonilla a year ago had that huge leg kick. He had that front leg up in the air, and as the pitch came to the plate, that leg would come down and he'd try to swing and make contact. Merv Rettenmund has cut down his stride considerably. Merv's philosophy was, you're not playing every day. There's too many things that can go wrong if you have that high leg kick. Your timing just isn't there because you're not in the lineup day after day. You cannot hit like that off the bench. And he must have found something because he's hitting .304, and the fact that he's lost a ton of weight can't hurt.
No high leg kick now. That's a more conventional swing for Bonilla. Comes up empty on the Grimsley fastball.
But the weight was a problem last year with the Mets. He and Bobby Valentine didn't get along at all. The much talked about card game at the end of the NLCS,
which under no circumstances can be condoned. Under any circumstance.
He and Ricky Anderson rumored to have been the ones involved, and now Tino Martinez does a Chuck Knobloch. Threw it like a shot put, trying to get it over to Grimsley, coming to the bag, and that was an error and an ugly play.
4th error of the game. Tino Martinez does not lead Grimsley enough. A rare error by the sure-handed Martinez. Fine play to stop the ball.
It was contagious over there.
Martinez, one of the best in the business. Best right-handed fielding first base, along with Andres Galarraga in the game.
Trinidad Hubbard will come off the bench and run for Atlanta. He's at first base here in the 7th inning. Bonilla's finished. Rafael Furcal is 1 for 2 with a walk, a stolen base, a run scored, and a single. Hangs over the plate and takes a strike.
Furcal, a base stealer, of course. He had 96 in the minor leagues with 2 different teams last year, taking the pitch, hoping that Hubbard would run early in the count.
Trinidad, the tying run at first with 2 out here in the 7th. It's quickly 0-2. That's one of the best ways to shut down a running game, throw strikes. You can throw over to first all afternoon, but if you don't throw strikes, you're not going to slow anybody down. Hubbard, in case you're wondering, as I am, is 0 for 1 in the stolen base department in limited time off the bench for Atlanta. Furcal keeps it 0-2.
Jason Grimsley, a very difficult pitcher to run against, and the reason for that, he doesn't have a high leg kick. Matter of fact, he picks his leg up about as high as Bobby Bonilla does now in his approach at the plate. Watch the left leg. You can see it drag along the ground. And obviously, the lower the leg kick, the faster he's able to get the ball home.
The 0-2 to Furcal. That hits him. That'll put 2 on with 2 out. A hit batsman trying to get Furcal off the plate. And now Javi Lopez, who delivered as a pinch hitter in the 5th inning, has 2 on, 2 out in front of him with his team down by 1.
Grimsley trying to come inside, and the ball just stays inside. Furcal hit on the right hip. Joe Torre, of all the things that he's seen today, there have been 4 errors, a hit batsman. Surprised that his Yankees are ahead. Because the worst thing you want to do is to hit Furcal and get Lopez up there.
The 4 errors says nothing of the play by Bernie Williams in center on the man at the plate now. A 2-out double as it was ruled, and I think rightly so, but a ball that could have been caught by Bernie Williams on the dead run out in center. He got there and missed it. So 4 errors plus that missed play, if you want to call it that. Yet the Yankees lead by 1 in the 7th. Here's Lopez, 2 on, 2 out. Ball, a strike. Catches the outside corner, and Lopez doesn't say much. 0-1.
One glance and one shake of the head's worth a lot of words, however. Lopez looking back at home plate umpire Chuck Merriweather, then shaking his head. Probably saying, this guy doesn't need any help.
Hubbard bouncing around back at second as Lopez had a pitch up, hammered at it, 94 miles per hour. It's 0-2.
Javi Lopez telling announcer Don Sutton of TBS that every time he gets 2 strikes, he looks for a breaking ball. There's Don, the Hall of Famer. Don saying, but Javi, you're telling everybody that, you know, this is public information. He said, well, you wanted the truth, right? I wonder if he's looking for a breaking ball. Didn't get one there.
1-2. You see on that 0-1 pitch, when Lopez fouled it back, the pitcher was up. He just closed his eyes. He knows he missed a pitch to Hammer. And now he waits for a 1-2 delivery from Grimsley. 2 on, 2 out, 7-6 New York. That gets away. The runners move up to second and third, and a hit could give Atlanta the lead. Not much of an effort by Turner, although it's ruled a wild pitch. Kind of flailed after it, missed it.
Yeah, well, you're forced to backhand a ball like this. You can see that that Turner was looking for the ball down, kind of cut the glove, and then had to turn it over.
Yeah, there was nothing wrong with that effort by Turner.
No.
That was a wild pitch all the way. And this crowd finally into it with second and third, 2 out, and a 2-2 count. Lopez into left center field. Back is Liddell, will catch it. Up against the wall. 2-run score. Lopez is driven in 3. And the Braves lead by 1.
You've heard that adage, all roads lead to Rome. Well, all errors by the Yankees today have led to runs.
Javi Lopez off the bench is 2 for 2 with a pair of doubles, 3 RBIs. And with Keith Lockhart, the announced pinch hitter for Remlinger, Grimsley is gone, but he can look behind him and know that an error caused trouble. 2 out, nobody on. Tino Martinez made a nice stop on this ball, hit by Bonilla, but a poor throw to first. The error's the 4th of the day for New York. They've also made another misplay, and now they trail by 1. 7th, third pitcher of the day for the Yankees, and it's the left-hander Mike Stanton. That's because the Braves sent Lockhart to the plate. Stanton will not deal with a lefty Lockhart. Instead, with those numbers, very good out of his bullpen, which comes in with a 2.73 ERA. Best in the business. A couple of unearned runs here in the 7th inning, and now it's Reggie Sanders, who hasn't done much of anything since putting on the Braves uniform.
You mentioned his 155 average. This is his first pinch hitting appearance of the 2000 season.
Lost for 3 weeks with a left ankle sprain earlier this season. Against lefties is 1 for 11. As a runner at second, 2 out. That's Lopez down there, and the Braves now up 8-7. The breaking ball is a pretty good pitch, called ball 1 inside. As Rudy Cianez be the new pitcher, and right now is Remlinger. In line for the win if the bullpen can hang on. But what this is unfolding toward, John Rocker.
I was thinking the same thing.
He won. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Right now, Reggie Sanders is jumping at the ball, and that's one of the worst things a hitter can do, going too far right there. Waiting and having quick hands. The 2 essential elements in hitting well. And right now, Reggie Sanders not doing that. The minute the pitcher releases the ball, he's jumping at it.
Runner at second, 2 out. Took something off that pitch, and it's 1-2.
Looks like a splitter from Stanton. You can see that opening up by Reggie Sanders. That is a common characteristic of a hitter with hitting woes.
Sanders a good year last year with San Diego, hit .285 with 26 home runs. Stays alive. This guy came up with the Cincinnati Reds. That foul tip caught the home plate umpire Chuck Merriweather. Sanders came up with the Reds, and they were comparing Sanders to a young Eric Davis, who came up with the Reds and could do everything. Sanders never really fulfilled that promise. Eric Davis has had a long career now, and he's having a good season with the front-running St. Louis Cardinals in the National League Central. Here's the 1-2. 2-2 from Stanton.
There are a lot of people in baseball, in and around baseball, some seasoned observers who think the St. Louis Cardinals could end up in the World Series this year. Gone so far as to say win the World Series. And I don't know how seasoned I am, but I'm one of those observers.
You're like crazy mixed up salt. You're seasoned.
I just think the Cardinals have made some great moves during the offseason. I think Walt Jocketty in acquiring 3 starting pitchers. I guess Hinkins in the bullpen right now.
He's still in the rotation.
He's still in the rotation.
Brought Matt Morris up.
Yep.
He's in the bullpen with Alan Bennis in the bullpen.
Oh, I guess Morris, when Morris is ready, he could be moved into the starting rotation.
Yeah, eventually. Right now he's in the bullpen. 2-2 to Sinkers. The inning continues, which lets us bring up one more point about Matt Morris. Everybody talks about the ligament replacement surgery performed on Kerry Wood. Well, Morris was a very good right-hander before he was injured. Tim, he came back the other night in Arizona. First came back, first time out, was throwing 97 with a nasty breaking ball, and he is a new weapon out of the bullpen for Tony La Russa. If somebody goes down, he takes their spot in the rotation. Alan Bennis is throwing well. They're a good team. 2-2 pitch, runner at second, 2 out. Breaking ball is called ball 3, 3-2. We'll see the Cardinals and Dodgers in 2 weeks on Fox Saturday Baseball, and they come back with the Dodgers at the Cardinals the following week.
Pitchers are having such success with ligament replacement surgery, some of them may start asking for it even though they don't need it.
Guys come back literally throwing harder than they did before. Here's the 3-2 to Reggie Sanders and a ground ball to short. Jeter getting over, but 2 unearned runs scored by Atlanta. A 2-out error by Tino Martinez. After a hit batsman, Javi Lopez again. A 2-run double. It's now 8-7 Braves. Yankee fans should have fun here this afternoon. The Yankees have made some mistakes, though, today, and they have cost them. Clemens, a throwing error on a pickoff throw, led to Chipper Jones' RBI single. That came in the first inning. The Jeter error led to a 3-run home run by Brian Jordan, which gave the Braves their first lead of the day. Bernie Williams short-armed a double hit by Javi Lopez, which scored for a call to tie the score. And then with the Yankees up by a run, last half inning, bottom of the 7th, the 2-out error by Tino Martinez led to a hit batsman, which led to a 2-out 2-run double by Javi Lopez. And now an 8-7 Atlanta lead. 8th inning, and Rudy Cianez is the 3rd pitcher of the day for Atlanta.
Tight, hard, heavy slider from Cianez.
A record of 2-3 as he checks in here in the 8th. Bernie Williams takes a ball.
A lot of pitchers who have that tight slider to right-handed batters, your right-handed pitcher, they can't throw that same tight slider to left-handers. The reason for that, if they do, it's in that vulnerable down and in area.
A ball and a strike. While we go along here in the 8th inning, as we look at the pitch from Rudy Cianez.
And normally, when you throw that, of course, that's a fastball right there. But if a right-hander like that throws that slider, he's not looking at anything on the left-hand batter's box where the left-handed hitters are.
He's 1-1 on Williams. First up in the 8th. Bernie 1 out of 4 with an RBI double way back in the first. That's strike 2. While we play here in the 8th inning in Atlanta, not that far away, Valdosta, Georgia, the home of a good friend of both of ours, and Steve Horn here in the booth, and so many others. Ellis Clary passed away yesterday. Very respected scout, baseball scout, Georgia Hall of Fame, a wonderful guy, great wit, and we send our condolences and prayers along to his family.
What a rich life Ellis Clary lived.
That barely missed. Bobby Cox is complaining about not getting that call all the way from a high school graduation as this missed outside to Bernie Williams.
I'd imagine Bobby's daughter's ceremonies are over right now, so he's had a chance perhaps to settle in, and in his stead, Leo Mazzoni is heard from the dugout.
Here's the 2-2 pitch. Little clunker to second. Barris, 1 away. Leadoff man is gone. Let's go to Keith Olbermann in the Fox Television Center.
To Oakland, Joe, where a Stutz Bearcat salesman has snuck onto the field. Now it's turn back the clock day for the A's and the Giants. Art Howe there. The team's dressed as they were in the 1911 World Series, to which Barry Bonds says, "I don't care." His homer, 1-0, now 1-1, bottom of the 2nd. Meanwhile, game 2 of the Freeway Series, Gary Sheffield hanging with Brian Cooper. Mr. Cooper, 3-run homer. Top 2nd, 3-0 Dodgers. It's your West Coast update. Joe?
Thank you, sir. 1 out here in the East. And in the 8th inning with the Braves up by a run, 8-7, the batter's Tino Martinez. Chris Turner, the backup catcher, on deck. Seen some reports that say the New York Yankees have won 7 straight here, including postseason over the Atlanta Braves. The real total is 8. 8 in a row the Yankees have won here over the Braves in Atlanta. Braves are 5 outs away from breaking that string. 2 balls, no strikes on Tino Martinez, who's 1 for 3.
Saw that game being played in Oakland, by the way. Turned back the clock. From the looks of those uniforms, they ought to turn them ahead. Yeah. Those were some bad-looking Giant uniforms. I didn't think I'd ever say Barry Bonds looked bad in a uniform, because he always is a guy who can style in a uniform. Barry did not look good in that uniform.
Here's a fly ball into left center field. Slicing to Hubbard, but Andrew Jones takes it away in front of him. 2 outs. Let's talk home runs in the Napa Auto Parts home run update. McGuire with 21, Bonds with 21. Carlos Delgado of Toronto with 19, and Finley having an incredible power surge here at the start of the year with Arizona. Then Everett, what a pickup by the Red Sox, a big change from a year ago. The former Boston first baseman Mo Vaughn, and on down the list, Hidalgo, Giambi, who's been stuck on 17. Since his friend Mark McGuire called him and told him to slow down. He hasn't hit one since. Here's a shot off the end of the bat into left center, off the bat of Turner. Not a hero here. Gave it a ride, but got it off the end of the bat. Who is a hero is Cianez. A perfect 8th inning out of the bullpen. Bottom of the 8th, a long day of baseball. Braves bat up by 1.
Napa. Stop by any Napa Auto Parts store in June for the chance to win a new car for life. By Tenactin Pump Spray, the only leading brand so tough it prevents athlete's foot. By Nicoderm CQ, the power to calm, the power to comfort, the power to help you quit. And by the new Vic Soft Wind. It's all you need for a great shave.
Turner Field in Atlanta. And the bottom of the 8th inning in what has been a slugfest. We came in talking about the pitching duel between Clemens and Maddox. Both were equally ineffective. Some mistakes defensively behind the pitching. And in the end, it's a 1-run game. It's not 2-1. It's now 1-0. It's 8-7, bottom of the 8th inning. Braves bat, they have the lead. It's sweeping the globe across 15 countries. Most talked about game show in the world is coming to America. Become an instant millionaire. It's your chance of a lifetime. A full week of shows starting Monday at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on Fox. Stanton goes back to the hill. Barris, Jones, and Jones. Andrew, and then Chipper. The 8th for the Braves, up by a run. And now you and we and the Braves and the fans. Barris takes ball 1, can start to wonder what happens in the 9th inning if the Braves take the field leading by only a run. Is it Cianez for another inning, or is it John Rocker? A ball and a strike on Barris.
I would think it's got to be Rudy Cianez, even though Rocker was up and throwing. He is loose, but I don't think there's any way, unless it's a 5-run game. There's Rocker. Unless it's a 5-run game, 4 or 5-run game, that Rocker gets in the ball game.
1 ball, 1 strike on Kilby O'Veris, who has a hit, a walk. He's grounded out. He's flied out. From Stanton.
Remember that old line when we were kids? Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Well, John Rocker's words have hurt an organization. I mean, the Braves depended on John Rocker. Certainly Leo Mazzoni did.
Another hit from Barris, his 2nd of the day to start the 8th inning.
To be the savior of this ball club this year. Said inane remarks.
You can put whatever.
Yeah, you can put anything in front of the remarks.
But I think it's
Rocker said. Yeah. Inane certainly appropriate because they were silly, inane, harmful, ridiculous, anything you want to use. And John Schuerholz, their general manager, knows that. But what a dilemma for the Atlanta Braves. He's a very, very talented guy.
Oh, they had Barris.
Gilbio knew it, too. Watch the lean on the right foot. Just back.
A ball high to Andrew Jones to talk about Rocker a little more. No sense in bringing up all the stuff he said, but what's almost as alarming as the stuff that came out of his mouth was the error in judgment to, if he felt that way, which would be a shame, say it to a writer from Sports Illustrated thinking that nothing would come of it. The mistake in judgment along those lines is shocking.
And then issuing an apology at everybody that I've talked to, I certainly felt that it was not a heartfelt apology. It was a statement that was issued along with John Rocker. The Players Association appealed the suspension. It was cut in half, and it's my view that if John Rocker just said, look, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. The American public's very forgiving, but by combating it, by appealing it, and you make things worse.
2-1 on Andrew Jones.
That apology that you've issued becomes a vapid statement.
What's been talked about and written about and talked about and written about. To get back to your original point, they finally had settled on a closer. Jeff Nelson getting ready for the Yankees if needed. They finally settled on a closer here after years of that being a weak link on this juggernaut of a team. Rocker is so talented, so good. And then to have that come crashing down, and now some of that's creeped into Rocker's head, and he's having a tough time throwing strikes. Right. He appears bothered by the reaction he gets when he enters the playing field. Here's the 3-1. That'll put the first two on here in the 8th inning for Atlanta. A hit, a walk, with Chipper Jones coming up. Jones has an RBI hit today. He's walked and scored. He's struck out. He's grounded out. Galarraga on deck, and that's why Nelson is getting ready in the bullpen. If Galarraga bats, he would be hitting for Wally Joyner. Two on, nobody out. Ooh, strike called against Chipper Jones, and he leans back after that surprising comment from the home plate umpire. He's ready for ball one. Instead, it's strike one. Great speed on the bases for Atlanta. Barris and Andrew Jones, 2 on, nobody out. The 0-1 to Chipper Jones. We talked about Joe Torre not making a double switch when he brought Grimsley in the 6th inning. As it turned out, Grimsley drew the walk, and Spencer, who came in to play right, ended the inning with a ground out. However, in the 9th, the pitcher spot is due up 3rd, so it comes back to get him here, and if he makes another pitching change, he may have to think about a double switch. Otherwise, you're only using the right-hander Nelson to get out of the bottom of this 8th inning, and then he'd have to go to somebody else. Rivera worked more than an inning last night for his 13th save. So Turner made the final out at the top of this 8th. Tino Martinez, Bernie Williams, the last 3 hitters. You have to start thinking along those lines. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
All the managers will tell you, much more difficult
That's a rocket foul. 1-2.
Much more difficult to manage in the National League because of the turnover in the lineup from the middle to the late part of the game. Do you double switch? Do you play him straight up? Joe Torre, who's had experience at that with the New York Mets, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, experiencing it once again.
Stanton has Chipper Jones set up at a ball and 2 strikes. Runners on at first and second with nobody out. Here comes. To the left side, through, a base hit. Ferris will come home to score, and it's 9-7 Atlanta. And now with Galarraga coming up. Joe Torre's waiting until Galarraga is officially brought into this game by the home plate umpire. Once that happens, he'll make a pitching change.
Joe, sometimes situations dictate leaving holes open that you wouldn't ordinarily leave. Derek Jeter would probably be playing Chipper Jones 3 steps to his right. But with the double play in order, he's cheating a little bit for the double play. That opens up the hole, and Chipper Jones has a base hit. That would normally be an out, perhaps.
Nelson will come out of the bullpen. Galarraga will be at the plate. 2 on, nobody out. And the Braves trying to add to a 9-7 8th inning lead. After battling lymphoma last year, missing all of last season, he'll turn 39 later in the year. What a year and what a comeback it's been. Here are his thoughts on his comeback after missing all of last season.
To play baseball again, it's amazing for me to be with my family, to enjoy, to have fun, especially with this organization. It's amazing. They know how to win, they know how to play. Helped me a lot to feel comfortable right away from the first day. It's been training. Everybody pulling for me and pulling for everybody. That's something special to play with this guy.
But I think he could say those same things about any club that would welcome him back. I don't know anybody in this game who doesn't have a world of respect for Andres Galarraga. And along those lines, here's his manager, Bobby Cox, talking about his comeback.
It was the very first day of spring training because he shocked us. We weren't led to believe he would be in that kind of condition and ready to go like he was. And he went through all the workouts that everybody else was participating in. And he probably hit the ball as good or better than anybody there that very first day. As you have to know, Andres, the size of his heart, I think, has a lot to do with a person in that situation. And he's got a big heart.
He's also got a big bat and a powerful swing. Opening day, April 3rd, that home run against Colorado. And then on Monday, today's starter, Greg Maddux, pitched a shutout. The only run scoring of the day at Wrigley, the home run by Andres Galarraga.
That home run with 2 out in the 6th inning broke up a no-hitter by the Cubs' John Lieber.
7 of Galarraga's 15 home runs have tied the game or given the Braves a lead from the 5th inning on. And now Jeff Nelson will face Galarraga. 2 on, nobody out. We say all of these things about Galarraga, who does have some holes in his swing. And they are predominantly up and out of the strike zone. That's how the Yankees pitched to him here last night. And that's into center, a base hit. Off the bench, the big cat delivers. Andrew Jones scores, and it's 10-7 Atlanta. That was up, and he was ready for it.
Well, this is what happens when a guy who has to keep the ball down pitches to a hitter's weakness instead of his strength. The ball is elevated because Jeff Nelson saw the success that Yankee pitchers had with him last night. Jeff Nelson cannot pitch up and be successful. He tried to there, and he was burned again by Galarraga.
Now Jordan with 2 on, nobody out. Ball 1. no double switch, by the way, which is something we were talking about prior to the break. So Nelson is out there for, at the most, 3 outs. He's due up third in the ninth. It's a 3-run Atlanta lead. Jordan chased a terrible pitch, 1 ball, 1 strike.
Tell by the way Rocker was fitting his hat. He's starting to warm up more in earnest now.
Well, 1-1. You know, at some point, they're going to have to face what John Rocker's going through and either try to get him through it or make a major change. And I can see them bringing him in this 9th inning against a New York team. Now that he has a little more of a lead with which to work, I could see him pitching in the 9th.
Yeah, you don't want to bring him along at the expense of a game played by the Braves. I think certainly with a chance to open it up here, Jordan way ahead in the count, nobody out 2 on. They're already up by 2.
A 3-1 to Jordan. Hard hit right through Jeter and into left field. That'll bring Chipper Jones to the plate and make it an 11-7 Atlanta lead. That almost flipped Jeter.
Derek Jeter will tell you that this rocket hit by Jordan ate him up. Never laid a glove on it.
Now Mel Stottlemyre out of the dugout. It's been a rough day in the field for Jeter. In his defense, that ball was hit hard, but he didn't knock it down, didn't get in front of it. That's easy for me to say. 100 yards away. An 11-7 Atlanta lead, and who would have guessed it? If you're just joining us, this game started with Greg Maddux and Roger Clemens on the mound. 9 Cy Young awards between them, and not only that, coming off their best performances of the season. Maddux a 1-0 shutout win at Wrigley. Clemens that 2-0 loss, complete game effort against Boston, which he struck out a season-high 13. But the pitching hasn't been good. The defense hasn't been good. And these two offenses have taken advantage. 11-7 Atlanta. 2 on, still nobody out. And Trinidad Hubbard steps to the plate for the first time today. Took over as a pinch runner for Bonilla last inning. And after that long meeting, they have to talk again. Oh, and one other thing. We're going to go with a second side.
This is the type of game that New York Yankee fans are not used to seeing the Yankees play. This has been a very porous game defensively and a poorly pitched game.
Well, the defense for this Yankee team has been awful today.
Terrible.
A 1-0. Overmatched. 1-1 on Trinidad Hubbard, a guy they like off their bench. He's bounced around with the Giants, with the Rockies, with the Dodgers. A 1-1 pitch, 2 on, nobody out. Into center field, pretty well hit. Williams back to get it. He's not getting a great read on the ball out in center field. He was late to go back on that, but he recovered. 1 out. Tagging and going to third is Galarraga. First and third, 1 away. That'll bring in Rafael Furcal.
I think the Yankees will play the infield in. Normally you'd play double play depth, but because Furcal can fly, chances are not good that you're going to double him up. So Joe Torre almost forced to bring the infield in here.
Which he does. First and third, 1 out. I tell you, Brian Jordan could walk down to second base. Non-blocker Jeter couldn't get to the bag, but he took off.
What does Jeff Nelson do? the runner back at third. No one holding Jordan on at first anyway.
Might as well take the base.
Sure.
Able to get a huge lead. There he goes. And Furcal fouls it away. And the Yankees are giving it to him. They have Knobloch in on the grass, Jeter in on the grass, and neither one of them moved when Jordan took off. So it should be a second and third situation for Furcal unless he fouls another one away or hits the ball right at somebody. The interesting thing is if Furcal doesn't do anything here and Jordan ends up taking second base, which he should, he wasn't running on that last pitch, then you've got first base open. You walk Javi Lopez and you force the hand of the Braves.
I think you ought to walk him even if it's first and third. You're going to walk him second and third, walk him first and third.
Then Cianez is the scheduled hitter. The Yankees' best chance in this game in the ninth inning might be to get Rocker in the ballgame. As Jordan's running on a ground ball at first, out there, 2 out. Now we expect the intentional walk to Lopez. And I say that about Rocker because of his control problem.
Sure.
Javi Lopez, a nice hand. He's 2 for 2 with a pair of doubles and 3 RBIs, and here comes the intentional walk.
Yeah, if you're the Yankees, you love the Atlanta Braves experimenting with John Rocker. They have to do it. We talked about that earlier. But I agree 100% with that, Joe, that by bringing Rocker in the game, that gives the Yankees the best chance. And last year at this time, I didn't think I'd ever make a statement like that.
So Cianez will be finished after 1 perfect inning as Walt Weiss will be the hitter. He's in the on-deck circle, and he'll bat with the bases loaded, 2 out. Cianez 1 perfect inning. No hits, walks, or strikeouts. And Rocker will be facing 2 demons in the ninth inning. Not only will he be trying to get the final 3 outs in what will be a non-save situation, but he'll be trying to do it against a New York team. The number 7 train might not run past Yankee Stadium, but it's certainly part of a big subway system that does. And the bases are loaded with 2 out for Walt Weiss. Weiss could certainly take a little bit of the edge off here with a hit. By the way, the line is complete on Stanton, 1/3 of an inning, 3 runs, 2 hits, and a walk. Runners on. Galarraga, Jordan, and now Lopez belong to Nelson, 2 out. And a strike hits the inside corner.
John Rocker will be the Atlanta pitcher in the top of the 9th inning.
That we know for certain now.
Yeah, right.
There is no mystery. Rocker's coming in. Will it be a 4-run lead or will it be more? That's up to Weiss and Nelson. Strike 2. A much improved bench for the Atlanta Braves, and certainly played a role in this game. The 1-2, inning over. It's a 4-run Atlanta lead. And they hand the baseball over to John Rocker. He'll come on to try to finish this game. We go to the 9th inning. 11-7 Atlanta. to this game, one of the most controversial figures in sports. Full energy when he enters a game. All of the off-season trouble, all of the comments made. Here's his entrance minutes ago.
Joe, if you're the New York Yankees, you have got to make John Rocker throw a strike. None of that 1-0, 2-0 swinging right here with his recent wildness. You have got to make him throw a strike. 23 walks in 16 1/3 innings.
He's been pulled from his last 2 saved chances. He hits the inside corner against Felix Jose. Recently activated switch hitting outfielder batting for Ledet. Rocker was pulled out of a save situation in Houston and then pulled out of one in Wrigley. 97 miles per hour, but lately he hasn't known where it's headed once it leaves his hand. A ball and a strike. It'll be Jose, then Brocious, probably Leyritz.
And from those numbers right there, the obvious.
If the umpire's going to squeeze him, he's in trouble. 2 balls and a strike. Not many seated in the dugout. They're all up where they can see. A dugout on a Major League Baseball field, one of the worst angles from which to view a game. And it's a 2-2 count on Felix Jose.
And that was never a surprise. John Rocker's ability to throw the fastball or the slider, for the most part, a one-speed pitcher. But it's the thought processes now going through his mind before he throws the ball that concern the Braves, obviously.
He's got 4 runs with which to work. An 11-7 Atlanta lead. Felix Jose leading off. The 2-2. Another breaking ball. 1 away.
After 5 fastballs, the slider gets Jose.
Brocious now 0 for 4. His average down to 224. He's hit only 2 home runs, driven in 12. 1 out, nobody on, 9th inning. Not as much excitement and energy as you can have in a 4-run game with 1 out, nobody on in the 9th. Ball 1 to Brocious. There's Leyritz on deck. That means Nelson will be finished officially. The Braves, by the way, have an empty bench. They've used all of their reserves. Two balls, no strikes on Brocious. Can't swing here. No way. Not even close. 3-0.
All right, the next 2 pitches. You got to take 3-0 and 3-1.
All it takes is 1 walk for Rocker and Leo Mazzoni to start thinking, here we go again. This is a free pitch if Rocker can throw a strike. off the inside corner. Borderline pitch. Rocker doesn't get it. A strikeout, now a walk. 1 on, 1 out. I would imagine shortly, if that continues, there'll be action down in the Atlanta bullpen. They had Mark Wohlers here, who was made famous by one swing of the bat by the man at the plate, Jim Leyritz. Wohlers lost his control. He has since had ligament replacement surgery in his pitching elbow. Wohlers was going through some off-field problems, which may have contributed to his on-field wildness. Rocker has had an off-season full of off-field trouble. Strike one. Wohlers is making his comeback attempt with the Reds in the minor leagues. Rocker's trying to iron it out here against New York. 1 on, 1 out, 11-7 Atlanta. Brings the ball in for strike 2, 0-2 on Leyritz. Barring a double play, which would end the game, Knobloch will be next. Then Jeter. The 0-2. Leyritz up on that padding. And it's a walk and a hit batsman.
I don't know about you, but I've always scoffed at padding like that. That's the first time I've seen that armor that a lot of hitters wear. And Leo Mazzoni on the phone and slamming the phone off the hook. As on an 0-2 pitch, Leyritz is hit right in the armor.
Leo Mazzoni, goodbye. Ooh. He gets action going in the Atlanta bullpen. And he's hot. He's been working hard with Rocker trying to get his problems squared away, but after looking good striking out Jose on an 0-2 breaking ball, he walked Brocious, got out in front 0-2 on Leyritz and hit him. One more base runner is all the Yankees need to have a chance.
And I would assume Knobloch will take a strike.
Bullpen is busy for Atlanta. Terry Lichtenberg on your left. He worked last night, as did Bruce Chen, who's on your right. He's the left-hander. 11-7 Atlanta, but for how long? Ninth inning, 2 on, 1 out, the 1-0. 2-0, and now he's starting to aim the ball. Derek Jeter with 4 hits and a walk waits to bat next.
And there's no way that Rocker, if he walks Knobloch, no way he stays in the game. No way.
The importance of the 3-run 8th inning looming large now for Atlanta. And there's no way that Knobloch can swing at this 2-0 pitch. No. 3 balls, no strikes as we are witnessing a Rocker meltdown here on the mound at Turner Field. There aren't many sympathetic viewers watching across the country. Nope. 3-1. There aren't many sympathetic teammates outside of trying to get a win.
That adds to the problem of a pitcher's position. He's isolated as he is, right in the middle of the mound. It's a position that'll make an eccentric out of you anyway. Add the other problems.
3-2.
Adding to John Rocker's gesticulations. He's always been a nervous worker. It appears that he's much more fidgety this afternoon.
Full count. Double play ball maybe. shortstop has it back up, and because of that, no double play. It's first and third, 2 out. Once Vercal had to lean back. No chance to turn 2. So the game continues, and Jeter will bat.
And if you're Vercal, you have to play it that way. You have to make sure of one, because a bobble there brings the tying run to the plate. As it stands, Jeter, the hottest Yankee hitter today, does not represent the tying run.
Remember, O'Neill is no longer in this game, left with pain in his right lower leg, so on deck it's Spencer. But right now, it's Jeter. Ball 1. And you can hear Rocker screaming at himself. If Jeter reaches, the tying run comes to the plate. He's taking, up there taking a strike. It's 2-0. The Braves, 1 out from a win, 3-0. With Spencer on deck, it'll be interesting to see if Jeter does walk or if he does reach. Spencer would represent the tying run. They've got Leitenberg in the bullpen. We'll see if they take Rocker out. Taking all the way is Jeter on 3-0, and it's right down the middle. He may take on 3-1. Knobloch was. Bases loaded, and the tying run will come to the plate. 2 walks and a hit batsman in the inning for the Yankees. And now it's Shane Spencer. And they will leave Rocker in the game.
Pat Corrales on the second step of the dugout, and he put his hand behind his head. That means for the outfielders to take 2 steps back and play a no doubles defense. Maybe Pat should have a sign for John Rocker, a no walk defense. I'm surprised right now that John Rocker's in the game. But I guess if you're the Braves, you've got to find out, as you said before this inning started, Joe, you've got to find out if he can do it under situations like this. And now Mariano Rivera thinking about getting loose for the Yankees, knowing he's got plenty of time.
11-7 Atlanta. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Spencer the tying run at the plate. Rocker, ball 1, not close. Switch inning, Bernie Williams waits on deck. One ball, no strikes on Spencer, a September hero 2 seasons ago for the Yankees. 1-1. Spencer could tie this game with 1 swing, and out ends it and gives Rocker a little boost of confidence. The 1-1 pitch. Coming to Spencer, who's 0 for 1 since entering in the 6th inning for O'Neill. Leo Mazzoni, Pat Corrales, and at the head of the pack, John Rocker with an enormous sigh of relief as that drive by Spencer fell 5 to 10 feet short of tying this game in left. These fans are stunned. Hard to comprehend all that we've seen here today. We have seen almost literally, Tim, a little bit of everything.
We just heard 50,000 exhalations in the crowd because of this. Hubbard, with his hand up against the wall, pulls it in.
It looked like Spencer knew it when the ball left his bat. If that's the case, Tim, he's the only one who knew it.
Yeah. Tell you, if there is anything that could get John Rocker straightened out as far as just one moment, this is the type of game that could do that, because he saw the ups and the downs of walking to and hitting the batter, and then the relief, and I mean relief, the sigh, oh my, of Spencer just missing. My goodness, what a game.
This crowd stunned on that swing, that result. Hubbard was there waiting at the wall 380 feet away. That could have been disaster for John Rocker personally, professionally.
It could have been the end, and now not necessarily so.
That may get him going. The Braves finally break the streak. The Yankees had won 8 straight in Atlanta over the Braves. And in a game in which we came in talking about Greg Maddux and Roger Clemens, 9 Cy Young awards between them, we go out talking about a slugfest. 11-7, the Braves win. For more information on today's game and for the latest information on Major League Baseball, go to foxsports.com. For Tim McCarver, I'm Joe Buck. So long from Atlanta. Final score, 11-7 Braves with one huge sigh of relief. You've been watching Fox Sports coverage of Major League Baseball, home of the 2000 World Series. Good night.